Can you believe she actually wore that tonight?
It's absolutely dreadful, darling.
Look at her face. She has absolutely no idea.
How dreadful. Someone really ought to tell her. To a truly magnificent Christmas Eve. We are so happy you could all make it.
Here. Thank you for hosting, Aunt Margaret. So, Evelyn, darling, I have to ask.
Ask what, Victoria?
Well, Christmas is almost here again, and I'm finalizing the seating chart. Will you be bringing someone special this year? Or will it be another year of you sitting at the singles table with Aunt Margaret?
Oh my God, Mom, you can't just... Though she does have a point.
Evelyn Brown sat frozen at the dinner table, her fork hovering halfway to her mouth as her stepmother Victoria's voice cut through the cheerful Christmas chatter like a knife through butter. The question had been asked so sweetly, so innocently, that everyone else around the table had fallen silent to hear the answer. So, Evelyn, darling, will you be bringing someone special to Christmas dinner this year? Or will it be another year of you sitting at the singles table with Aunt Margaret? The laughter that followed was polite but unmistakable. Evelyn felt her cheeks burn as she set down her fork, the clink of metal against china sounding far too loud in the suddenly quiet room. This was last year's Christmas dinner, and she should have seen it coming. Victoria always waited until there was an audience. Her father, Richard, cleared his throat uncomfortably but said nothing. He never did. Not when it came to his new wife. Evelyn watched as her stepsister Clarissa smirked from across the table, her perfectly manicured hand resting on her own boyfriend's arm. Clarissa always had a boyfriend. Sometimes two. I've been focused on my career, Victoria, Evelyn managed, her voice steadier than she felt. Some of us actually work for a living. The dig landed, but Victoria's smile never wavered. She was too good at this game. Of course, sweetheart. It's just that you're 32 now, and well, your father and I worry. Don't we, Richard? Richard Brown, a kind man who had simply been too lonely after Evelyn's mother died, nodded weakly. Evelyn wanted to scream at him to stand up for her just once. But she knew he wouldn't. He'd chosen his peace over his daughter's dignity 3 years ago when he'd married Victoria. Actually, Evelyn heard herself say, the words tumbling out before her brain could stop them. I am seeing someone. He's just traveling for business. International consultant. Very demanding schedule. The lie hung in the air like crystal chandelier above them, glittering and fragile. Victoria's eyes narrowed slightly, the only indication that she'd registered the challenge. How wonderful! You simply must bring him to Christmas dinner next year. We're all dying to meet this mysterious man of yours. Evelyn nodded, her smile feeling like it might crack her face in half. Of course, he'll be there. As the conversation mercifully shifted to other topics, Evelyn reached for her wine glass with a trembling hand. She'd just made a promise she had absolutely no way of keeping. She didn't have a boyfriend. She hadn't had one in almost 2 years, not since David had left her for his yoga instructor. The international consultant didn't exist. The demanding schedule was a fantasy. She had just bought herself 12 months to either find someone or face a humiliation that would make tonight look like a minor inconvenience. 12 months? 365 days. It seemed like forever as she sat there in her father's mansion, surrounded by people who should have loved her, but instead seemed to take pleasure in watching her squirm. It seemed like plenty of time. It wasn't. The weeks before Christmas always had a way of disappearing, but this year, they seemed to have evaporated entirely. Evelyn stared at her calendar in disbelief. December 3rd, 22 days until Christmas dinner. 22 days until she had to produce a boyfriend or admit to everyone that she'd been lying for an entire year. She'd tried everything. The dating apps had been a disaster. 3 coffee dates with men who'd looked nothing like their photos. 2 dinner dates with guys who'd spent the entire evening talking about their ex-girlfriends, and one truly horrifying encounter with someone who'd brought his mother along to meet her. Her friends had tried to set her up, but those had been even worse. Apparently, being single and desperate at 33 meant you got matched with anyone else who was also single and desperate, regardless of compatibility. Evelyn's apartment in downtown Seattle felt smaller than usual as she paced between her living room and kitchen, her laptop open on the coffee table. She'd been scrolling through options for hours now, each one seeming more impossible than the last. Her cat, Mochi, watched her with unblinking amber eyes from his perch on the bookshelf, as if judging her life choices. "Don't look at me like that," Evelyn muttered. "You're not the one who has to face Victoria's smug face on Christmas." Her phone buzzed. A text from her father. "Victoria is finalizing the seating chart. She needs to know your +1's name for the place card. Let me know soon, sweetheart." Evelyn felt her stomach drop. A name. She needed a name attached to a real, physical person who could sit through a formal Christmas dinner and convince her entire family that they were in a loving, committed relationship. She needed someone who could handle Victoria's invasive questions, Clarissa's flirting, and the general chaos of her father's holiday gatherings. She needed a miracle. That's when she saw the ad. It was tucked away in a sidebar, the kind of thing she normally would have scrolled past without a second glance. Platinum companions, discretion guaranteed, professional escorts for all occasions. The word escort made her hesitate, but as she clicked through to the website, she realized it wasn't what she'd initially thought. The site was sleek and professional, featuring testimonials from clients who'd hired dates for weddings, corporate events, and family gatherings. It was exactly what she needed, even if the idea made her feel slightly sick. The prices made her feel even sicker. $5,000 for a weekend engagement. That was nearly everything she had in her savings account, the money she'd been setting aside for a down payment on a condo. But what choice did she have? She couldn't face another year of Victoria's subtle digs and pitying looks. She couldn't watch her father's disappointed expression when she showed up alone again. She couldn't give Clarissa another opportunity to parade her perfect life in front of everyone. Evelyn created an account and filled out a detailed request form. She needed someone attractive, but not so attractive that it would be unbelievable. Someone well-mannered and educated who could handle difficult personalities. Someone who could convince her stepmother that Evelyn Brown was not, in fact, a pathetic failure destined to die alone with her cat. The responses came faster than she'd expected. By the next morning, she had 7 potential candidates, each with a profile photo and a brief biography. She scheduled interviews for that weekend, meeting them one by one at a coffee shop far enough from her neighborhood that she wouldn't run into anyone she knew. The first candidate arrived 20 minutes late and spent the entire interview checking his phone. The second had the personality of damp cardboard. The third seemed nice enough until he mentioned that he'd need to leave early on Christmas Day because his parole officer required check-ins. Evelyn was beginning to think this had been a terrible idea. Then, Jin-woo Park walked into the coffee shop, and Evelyn forgot how to breathe. He was tall, probably just over 6 feet, with the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers. Dark hair styled perfectly, sharp cheekbones, and eyes that seemed to see right through her. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, and he moved with a confidence that suggested he'd never been uncertain about anything in his entire life. He was, objectively, the most attractive man Evelyn had ever seen in person. He was also completely wrong for this job. No one would ever believe that someone who looked like him would date someone who looked like her. Evelyn Brown? His voice was deep and smooth, with just a hint of an accent that made her name sound exotic. He extended his hand, and she shook it automatically, noting that his grip was firm but not aggressive. "That's me," she managed, gesturing to the chair across from her. "Please, sit down. Can I get you something? Coffee? Tea?" "I'm fine, thank you." He sat with the kind of grace that suggested either dance training or martial arts. "I understand you need a date for a family Christmas gathering." Evelyn nodded, trying to organize her thoughts. Up close, he was even more striking. There was something about his eyes, something that suggested depth and danger in equal measure. They were dark brown, almost black, and they watched her with an intensity that made her want to look away and lean closer at the same time. Right, yes, it's complicated. She pulled out the notes she'd prepared, suddenly feeling foolish. My stepmother is, well, she's difficult. She's been on my case about being single, and last year I may have told a small lie about having a boyfriend who travels for work. Now I need to produce said boyfriend or face, so total humiliation in front of my entire extended family. To her surprise, Jin-woo smiled. It transformed his face completely, softening the sharp edges and making him look almost approachable. I see. And what kind of boyfriend did you tell them you have? International business consultant. Someone who travels frequently, which would explain why they haven't met him yet. Sophisticated, well-educated, successful. Someone who would be, plausible. Plausible. He repeated the word as if tasting it. And you don't think I'm plausible? Evelyn felt her cheeks heat. It's not that. You're very, attractive, and I'm pretty average. My stepmother would immediately question why someone like you would be with someone like me. Jin-woo leaned back in his chair, studying her with those impossibly dark eyes. You know what I think? I think you don't see yourself clearly. You have kind eyes, intelligent, and when you're not nervous, you have a beautiful smile. Any man would be lucky to be with you, fake or otherwise. The compliment caught her completely off guard. It sounded genuine, not like the rehearsed flattery she'd expected from someone in this line of work. Evelyn didn't know what to say, so she pressed forward with her questions. Have you done this before? Played a boyfriend for a family event? I've accompanied clients to various functions. Yes, corporate events mostly. A few weddings, never a Christmas dinner, but I'm a quick study. He pulled out his phone and showed her a series of testimonials. They were glowing, praising his professionalism, his ability to adapt to any situation, his discretion. I need to ask about the physical aspects. Evelyn felt her face burning now. I mean, we'd need to look convincing. Holding hands, maybe some, kissing. Would that be okay? Whatever you need to sell the relationship, I can provide. Within reason, of course. I'm not an escort in that sense. Of course. I wasn't suggesting that. I just meant for show. For my family. I understand. He glanced at his phone as it buzzed, silencing it without looking at the screen. Tell me about your family. Who will I need to convince? Evelyn spent the next 20 minutes explaining the dynamics. Her father, Richard, who was kind but weak-willed. Her stepmother, Victoria, a former model who had married Richard for his money and now ruled the household like a particularly glamorous dictator. Her stepsister, Clarissa, an Instagram influencer with over 1 million followers and a new boyfriend every few months. The various aunts, uncles, and cousins who would all be watching to see if Evelyn had actually managed to snag a man. Jin-woo listened intently, occasionally asking questions that showed he was really paying attention. He wanted to know about inside jokes, family history, anything that would help him play his role convincingly. By the time she finished, Evelyn had filled several pages in her notebook with details. This is going to be expensive, she said finally, dreading the answer. The standard rate is $5,000 for a weekend, but this sounds more complicated than usual. I have the $5,000, but if you need more, I'll have to think about it. Jin-woo was quiet for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he smiled again, and Evelyn felt something flutter in her chest that she absolutely could not afford to feel for someone she was hiring. $5,000 is fine, he said. Consider it a holiday special. Really? That's great. Thank you. Evelyn pulled out her phone to get his contact information. I'll transfer a deposit today, and we should probably meet a few more times before Christmas to get our story straight. Make sure we're convincing. Whatever you think is best. He gave her his number, and she noticed his hands as he typed into his own phone. They were elegant, but strong, with a thin scar across the knuckles of his right hand. The kind of scar that came from a fight, not an accident. "Can I ask you something?" Evelyn said as they prepared to leave. "Why do you do this, the whole professional date thing? You obviously don't need the money, not if you're willing to take a holiday discount." Jin-woo stood, adjusting his jacket with practiced ease. "Let's just say I find it interesting to step into different lives for a while. See how other people live." "Your family sounds particularly entertaining." "Entertaining is one word for it," Evelyn muttered. "Dysfunctional nightmare might be more accurate." "Those are often the same thing." He extended his hand again, and when she shook it, he held on for just a moment longer than necessary. "I'll see you soon, Evelyn. Start thinking about where we met, how long we've been together, all the details. We need to know each other's stories better than we know our own." As Evelyn watched him leave the coffee shop, she noticed other women turning to look at him. He had that kind of presence, the kind that demanded attention without asking for it. She wondered again if this was a terrible idea, if anyone would ever believe that a man like that would choose a woman like her. But she was out of options, and almost out of time. Jin-woo Park was going to be her fake boyfriend for Christmas, and somehow, she was going to make it work. What Evelyn didn't see as Jin-woo walked to his car was the way his expression changed the moment he was out of her line of sight. The easy smile disappeared, replaced by something harder, more focused. He pulled out his phone and made a call, speaking in rapid Korean to someone on the other end. "It's done," he said quietly. "I've made contact. The Browns' family Christmas will provide perfect cover while we handle the situation in Seattle. No one will be looking for me at a suburban holiday dinner." He listened to the response, his jaw tightening slightly. "Yes, I understand the risks. But sometimes, the best hiding place is in plain sight. And, besides," he glanced back toward the coffee shop where Evelyn was still sitting, looking at her phone. "There's something about her. Something real. It'll make the performance more convincing." He ended the call and got into his Mercedes, the black sedan blending perfectly into the Seattle drizzle. As he drove away, he thought about Evelyn Brown and her terrible stepmother and her desperate need to prove herself to people who didn't deserve her. He thought about the way she'd blushed when he'd complimented her, and the way her eyes had lit up when she talked about her mother, who had died when Evelyn was in college. Jin-woo had meant what he said. There was something about her, something that had made him take the job, even though it wasn't the kind of work he normally did. The Platinum Companion's website was a front, one of many businesses that allowed him to move money and people without attracting attention. He'd only looked at her request because his assistant had flagged it as potentially useful for his current situation. But now, having met her, he was taking the job for different reasons. Reasons he didn't want to examine too closely. In his world, caring about people was dangerous. Attachments were weaknesses that enemies could exploit. He'd learned that lesson the hard way when he'd watched his father die because someone had figured out who he loved and used it against him. But Evelyn Brown didn't belong to his world. She was beautifully, painfully normal. She worried about her stepmother's opinion and saved money for condo down payments. She had no idea that the man she'd just hired to play her boyfriend was one of the most wanted men in 3 countries, that his real business was moving illegal goods across international borders, that his last name carried weight in circles she couldn't even imagine, and if Jin-woo had anything to say about it, she never would. Hello, beautiful viewers and listeners. I hope you're enjoying this story. If yes, please do me a favor and smash that like button right now. It helps us bring you more incredible romances like this one. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our subsequent stories. And lastly, go to the comment section below and tell me where in the world you're watching from. And here's something special. If you'd like your name featured as a character in our next Mafia romance story, drop your name in the comments right now. We read every single one, and you might just become the next hero or heroine. All right, let's get back to the story. The video call had been Evelyn's idea, and now she was regretting it. She'd spent an hour getting ready, changing her shirt 3 times before settling on a casual sweater that said, "I'm effortlessly put together without trying too hard." Her apartment was clean. Mochi had been bribed with treats to stay off camera, and she'd positioned her laptop so that the background showed her bookshelf instead of the pile of laundry she'd shoved into her bedroom. Jin-woo appeared on screen exactly on time, and Evelyn's breath caught slightly. He was in what looked like a penthouse apartment, floor-to-ceiling windows behind him, showing the Seattle skyline at night. He wore a simple black shirt, and somehow he looked even better than he had in the coffee shop. "Hi," Evelyn said, suddenly feeling foolish. "Thanks for doing this. I thought it would be good to practice our story before we have to perform it for real." "Smart thinking," Jin-woo replied, and that smile appeared again, the one that made her forget her own name. "We should be able to finish each other's sentences by the time Christmas arrives. Nothing kills a fake relationship faster than contradictory details." Evelyn laughed, relaxing slightly. "Okay, so I've been thinking about our backstory. We met 6 months ago at a charity gala. You were there for business connections. I was there because my company bought a table, and my boss made me go. We started talking by the bar, and you made me laugh. We exchanged numbers, and you asked me out the next day." Jin-woo nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Good. Specific enough to be believable. Vague enough that we don't trip over details." "What kind of charity?" "Children's hospital. Victoria actually dragged me to one last year, so I can describe the venue if anyone asks." "Perfect. And our first date?" "Dinner at that Italian place on 5th Avenue. The one with the terrible murals, but amazing pasta. Then a walk along the waterfront, even though it was raining. Very Seattle. Very romantic." "I like it." Jin-woo leaned back in his chair, and Evelyn caught a glimpse of his apartment behind him. It was immaculate, all clean lines and expensive furniture. There was a piece of art on the wall that looked like it belonged in a museum. "What do I do for work exactly?" "You said international business consultant, but we should have details." "Right. You consult for companies expanding into Asian markets, mostly Korea and Japan. You help them navigate cultural differences, set up supply chains, that sort of thing. It explains why you travel so much and why we don't see each other as often as we'd like." "And my family?" Evelyn consulted her notes. "Your parents are still in Seoul. Your father is retired, your mother volunteers at a cultural center. You have one younger sister who's a doctor. You come from money, but you made your own way because you wanted to prove yourself." Jin-woo's expression shifted slightly, something unreadable crossing his features. "You've thought this through." "I have to. Victoria will grill you like you're a suspect in a crime. She'll want to know everything about you, and she'll be looking for inconsistencies. She's got this way of making you feel like you're lying even when you're telling the truth." "I can handle difficult people," Jin-woo said quietly, and there was something in his voice that made Evelyn believe him. Something that suggested he'd dealt with far worse than a difficult stepmother. They spent the next hour going over details. Favorite foods, movies they'd supposedly seen together, pet peeves, inside jokes. Evelyn took notes frantically, but Jin-woo didn't write anything down. He just listened and remembered, his recall perfect and slightly unsettling. "You're really good at this," Evelyn said finally. "Like, unnaturally good. Do you have a photographic memory or something?" "Something like that." Jin-woo glanced at his phone as it lit up with what looked like a text message. Evelyn caught a glimpse of Korean characters before he flipped it face down. "Sorry, work thing. Time zones make it hard to disconnect." "No problem. I should probably let you go anyway." This was really helpful, though. "Evelyn," Jin-woo's voice stopped her as she reached to end the call. "Can I ask you something? Why do you care so much what your stepmother thinks? From everything you've told me, she sounds toxic." Why not just skip Christmas? Evelyn was quiet for a moment, trying to find the right words. My mom died when I was 20. Cancer. It was fast and horrible, and my dad just fell apart. He was lost for 2 years before he met Victoria. I know she's not a good person. I know she married him for his money, and his house, and his reputation. But she made him smile again. She brought him back to life, even if it was for the wrong reasons. That doesn't explain why you torture yourself. Because he's my dad, Evelyn said simply. He's all I have left of my real family. If I cut ties with Victoria, I cut ties with him. He made his choice, and he chose her. So I show up and I smile and I pretend everything's fine because the alternative is losing him completely. Jin-woo was silent for a long moment, his dark eyes studying her through the screen. That's very loyal of you. Maybe more loyal than he deserves. Maybe, but it's not really about what he deserves, it's about what I can live with. Evelyn smiled, trying to lighten the mood. Besides, showing up with you on my arm and watching Victoria's face when she realizes I actually followed through, that'll be worth every awkward minute. Then we'll make sure it's a performance she'll never forget. Jin-woo leaned forward slightly, and even through the computer screen, Evelyn felt the intensity of his gaze. I promise you, Evelyn Brown, by the time Christmas dinner is over, your stepmother will have no choice but to believe that I am completely, utterly devoted to you. The way he said it made Evelyn's heart do something complicated, in her chest. She reminded herself that this was his job, that he was probably this convincing with all his clients, that none of it was real, but a small, dangerous part of her wished that it was. After they ended the call, Evelyn sat in her apartment feeling strangely unsettled. There was something about Jin-woo that didn't quite add up. The penthouse apartment, the expensive clothes, the way he carried himself with absolute confidence. If he was just an escort, even a high-end one, how did he afford all that? She opened her laptop and did something she probably shouldn't have done. She searched for him. Jin-woo Park, Seattle. Jin-woo Park International Business. Jin-woo Park Consultant. Nothing came up. Well, nothing specific. There were LinkedIn profiles for other people with similar names, a few random social media accounts, but nothing that matched the man she'd just been talking to. It was like he didn't exist online, which in this day and age was almost impossible. Evelyn told herself it didn't matter. He was good at his job, he was professional, and in 3 weeks he'd help her survive Christmas dinner. What difference did it make if he kept his personal life private? Wasn't that actually a good thing? But the uneasy feeling stayed with her as she got ready for bed. She dreamed that night of dark eyes and dangerous smiles, and when she woke up, she couldn't shake the sense that she'd just made a deal with someone far more complicated than she'd realized. The package arrived 3 days later. Evelyn found it outside her apartment door when she got home from work. A plain brown box with no return address. Inside was a jewelry box, and inside that was a delicate gold necklace with a small pendant in the shape of a cherry blossom. There was a note in handwriting she didn't recognize. Girlfriends wear gifts from their boyfriends. This should make the performance more convincing. Also, you mentioned your mother loved cherry blossoms. Seemed appropriate. Evelyn sat on her couch holding the necklace, feeling tears prick at her eyes. She had mentioned her mother's favorite flower, but only in passing during their video call. The fact that Jin-woo had remembered, had gone out of his way to find something meaningful, made it feel less like a performance prop and more like something real. She put the necklace on and looked at herself in the mirror. It was beautiful, understated, but clearly expensive. Exactly the kind of thing a successful international consultant would give his girlfriend. Victoria would notice it immediately. Evelyn took a photo and sent it to Jin-woo with a simple message. "It's perfect. Thank you." His response came a few minutes later. "You're welcome. Wear it on Christmas. I want your stepmother to see it and know that someone values you." That night, Evelyn fell asleep with the necklace still around her neck, and for the first time in months she felt something that might have been hope. The week before Christmas arrived too, quickly. Evelyn had been messaging back and forth with Jin-woo regularly, refining their story, making sure every detail was perfect. She'd transferred the full $5,000 to his account, watching her savings balance drop with a mixture of dread and determination. It was worth it, she told herself. It had to be worth it. Her father called on Monday evening. "Evelyn, sweetheart, Victoria is getting anxious about meeting your boyfriend before Christmas dinner. She wants to know if the two of you would like to come by for drinks this weekend. Just casual, nothing formal." Evelyn's stomach dropped. "This weekend? That's really soon, Dad." "I know, but you know how Victoria gets. She doesn't like surprises, and she wants to make sure, well." He paused, and Evelyn could hear the discomfort in his voice. "She wants to make sure he's real, honey. You can't really blame her. You've been very secretive about this relationship." "I've been secretive because Jin-woo travels constantly, and coordinating schedules is hard." Evelyn hated the defensive tone in her own voice. "But fine. I'll ask him. I'm sure he can make time." She texted Jin-woo immediately after hanging up. "Emergency. Stepmother wants to meet you this weekend. Saturday evening, drinks at my father's house. Can you do it?" His response came quickly. "Saturday works. Send me the address and time. And Evelyn, don't worry, I've got this." Saturday evening found Evelyn standing in front of her mirror, changing her outfit for the fourth time. Jin-woo was picking her up in 20 minutes, and she needed to look like a woman who had her life together, not a woman who was paying someone to pretend to love her. She'd settled on black pants and a deep green blouse that her best friend Maya had once said made her eyes look pretty. The cherry blossom necklace rested against her collarbone. Her hair was down, which she almost never did, but Jin-woo had mentioned during one of their calls that it softened her face. The doorbell rang precisely on time. Evelyn grabbed her coat and purse, took a deep breath, and opened the door. Jin-woo stood in her hallway looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine. Dark slacks, a crisp white shirt under a cashmere coat, and a watch that probably cost more than her car. But it was his smile that made her knees weak, warm and genuine, and just for her. "You look beautiful," he said, and the way he said it made her almost believe he meant it. "You clean up pretty well yourself." Evelyn locked her door, her hands shaking slightly. "Ready for this? The question is, are you ready?" Jin-woo offered his arm, and she took it, feeling the solid warmth of him through the expensive fabric. "Remember, we're in love. We're happy. Nothing your stepmother says can touch that." The drive to her father's house took 30 minutes, and Evelyn spent most of it running through their story one more time. Jin-woo listened patiently, occasionally squeezing her hand when her voice got too anxious. His car was a black Mercedes, immaculate and clearly new, with leather seats that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "Nice car," Evelyn said, trying to distract herself from her nervousness. "It's practical for my work. Clients expect a certain image." Jin-woo navigated the evening traffic with easy confidence. "Tell me something real about you, Evelyn. Something not in our practice story." "What do you mean?" "I mean something true. A secret. A dream. Something that matters to you that you don't usually tell people." Evelyn thought about it. "I wanted to be a writer when I was younger. Fiction, mostly. I used to write these elaborate stories about adventure and romance and people finding where they belonged. My mom was the only one who read them. She said I had a gift." "Why did you stop?" "Because after she died, everything I wrote felt hollow, like I'd lost the part of me that believed in happy endings." Evelyn looked out the window, watching the Seattle suburbs roll by. "I work in marketing now. It's fine. It pays the bills. But sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd been braver." Jin-woo was quiet for a moment. "It's not too late, you know, to be brave, to write again." "Maybe." Evelyn turned to look at him. "What about you? What's something real about Jin-woo Park that's not in our carefully constructed backstory?" His jaw tightened slightly, and Evelyn saw something flicker across his face. Pain, maybe, or regret. I had a brother, older. He died when I was 19. Sometimes I wonder who I would have been if he'd lived. If I'd had the chance to just be the younger son instead of the one carrying all the weight. I'm sorry, Evelyn said softly. What was his name? Minho. He was brilliant and kind and everything I'm not. Jin-woo's hands gripped the steering wheel a little tighter. He would have been better at everything than I am. Better at the business. Better at handling the family expectations. Better at protecting the people who mattered. Evelyn reached over and placed her hand on his arm. I'm sure that's not true, and I'm sure he'd be proud of who you've become. Jin-woo glanced at her, and there was something raw in his expression that made her chest ache. You don't know what I've become, Evelyn. Before she could respond, they turned onto her father's street. The brown house loomed ahead, a modern mansion that Richard had bought when his tech company had gone public 15 years ago. Every window blazed with light, and Evelyn could see Victoria's white BMW in the circular driveway. Showtime, Jin-woo said, and just like that, the vulnerable moment was gone. His expression smoothed into that practiced charm, warm and confident. He parked the car and came around to open Evelyn's door, offering his hand to help her out. Remember, he said quietly as they walked to the front door, I'm completely devoted to you. Nothing she says changes that. Evelyn rang the doorbell, and within seconds, it swung open to reveal Victoria in all her polished glory. She was 52, but could pass for 40, her blonde hair perfectly styled, her figure maintained through personal trainers and careful dieting. She wore cream-colored pants and a silk blouse that probably cost more than Evelyn's entire outfit, and her blue eyes assessed Jin-woo with the precision of a jeweler examining a diamond. Evelyn, darling, Victoria's voice was warm honey and cold steel. And this must be the famous Jin-woo. How wonderful to finally meet you. We were beginning to think you were a figment of Evelyn's imagination. Jin-woo's smile never wavered. He extended his hand, and when Victoria took it, he held it gently, respectfully. Mrs. Brown, it's a pleasure. Evelyn has told me so much about you. Thank you for inviting us into your beautiful home. Evelyn watched her stepmother practically melt. Jin-woo had exactly the right tone, respectful, but not subservient, charming, but not trying too hard. Victoria gestured them inside, already chattering about the house renovations and the new caterer she'd found for Christmas dinner. Richard appeared from the living room, and Evelyn felt a familiar mixture of love and disappointment. Her father was a good man who had simply stopped fighting for anything after her mother died. He hugged Evelyn warmly, then shook Jin-woo's hand with genuine friendliness. Jin-woo, good to meet you, son. Can I get you a drink? We've got an excellent scotch or beer if you prefer. Scotch would be wonderful. Thank you, sir. They moved into the living room, and Evelyn noticed every detail had been arranged for maximum interrogation potential. Victoria had positioned the seating so that she and Richard sat opposite the sofa where Evelyn and Jin-woo would sit, giving them the best view for observation. Clarissa was there too, draped artfully across an armchair, her phone in hand, but her attention fully on Jin-woo. Oh my God, Clarissa said, not bothering to hide her appreciation. Evelyn, you didn't mention your boyfriend was hot. Clarissa, Richard said weakly, but Victoria just laughed. She's right, though. Jin-woo, you really are quite striking. What do you do for work? And so it began. For the next hour, Victoria peppered Jin-woo with questions. Where did he grow up? What did his parents do? How did he get into international consulting? Where did he go to school? Each question was designed to trip him up, to find inconsistencies, to prove that Evelyn was lying. Jin-woo handled it perfectly. His answers were detailed but not overly rehearsed. He deflected invasive questions with charm. When Victoria asked about his family's finances, he smiled and said, "Comfortable enough that I can focus on doing work I find meaningful rather than chasing the biggest paycheck." When she asked why he was with Evelyn, He looked at Evelyn with such genuine warmth that even Evelyn almost believed it was real. Because she's brilliant and kind and sees the world in ways that surprise me every day. Because she makes me laugh and challenges me to be better. Because when I'm with her, I feel like I can be myself instead of whoever everyone expects me to be. The room fell silent. Even Clarissa had stopped scrolling through her phone. Evelyn felt tears prick at her eyes, and she had to remind herself that this was an act, that Jin-woo was just very good at his job. Victoria recovered first. Well, that's quite romantic. Evelyn, you've certainly done well for yourself. There was something in her tone, though. Something that suggested she wasn't entirely convinced. Dinner was announced, and they moved to the dining room. Jin-woo kept his hand on Evelyn's back, a gentle touch that felt protective and possessive at the same time. He pulled out her chair, poured her water, and engaged in easy conversation with her father about technology and business trends. Evelyn watched him work and marveled at how seamless it all was. He knew exactly when to be charming, when to be deferential, when to show just enough edge to be interesting without being threatening. He told stories about his work that were detailed enough to be believable, vague enough to avoid scrutiny. He laughed at Richard's jokes and deflected Clarissa's increasingly obvious flirting with polite disinterest. It was during dessert that things took an unexpected turn. Victoria's phone rang, and she excused herself to take the call. When she returned, her expression was troubled. "Jin-woo, I have to ask you something, and please don't take offense." Victoria sat down, her eyes sharp. "I have a friend who does background checks for a living, corporate due diligence, that sort of thing. Just out of curiosity, after Evelyn mentioned you were coming tonight, I had her run a quick search. Just your name and the city." Evelyn felt her stomach drop. This was it. Victoria had found something, some inconsistency that would expose the whole charade. "And?" Jin-woo's voice was calm, but Evelyn saw his hand tighten slightly on his glass. "And she found almost nothing. No LinkedIn profile, no social media presence, barely any online footprint at all. Which is strange, don't you think? For someone in your line of work?" The room was silent. Richard looked uncomfortable. Clarissa had put down her phone, sensing drama. Evelyn wanted to disappear into the floor. Jin-woo set down his glass carefully. "Mrs. Brown, I appreciate your concern for your stepdaughter. It shows you care about her well-being. But the reason you found nothing is because I specifically keep my online presence minimal. In my line of work, I deal with sensitive corporate information, merger negotiations, proprietary business strategies. The companies I consult for require absolute discretion. Having a detailed digital footprint would make me a liability." He pulled out his phone and showed Victoria something on the screen. "This is my company website. It's deliberately minimal, and you won't find it through standard search engines. I can also provide you with references from 3 Fortune 500 companies I've consulted for in the past 2 years, if you'd like to verify my credentials. Though I'll need their permission to share that information, which will take a few days." Victoria studied the phone, and Evelyn held her breath. Whatever Victoria saw there must have satisfied her, because she handed the phone back with a tight smile. "That won't be necessary. I apologize for the intrusion. You understand, I'm sure. We just want to make sure Evelyn is with someone trustworthy." "Of course. I'd be suspicious too if someone I loved was dating a man with no digital presence. It's actually one of the things I admire about Evelyn. She didn't just take me at face value. She asked questions, wanted to know who I really was before getting serious. It's smart." The conversation moved on, but Evelyn noticed Jin-woo's hand found hers under the table and squeezed gently. A reassurance, a connection, a promise that they were in this together. By the time they left, Victoria seemed convinced. She hugged Jin-woo goodbye and told Evelyn privately that she approved, which was probably the closest thing to a compliment Victoria had ever given her. In the car driving back to Evelyn's apartment, the silence felt heavy with things unsaid. Evelyn finally broke it. "That was close. with Victoria's background check. It was expected. Jin-woo kept his eyes on the road. Successful stepmothers don't trust easily. I prepared for it. You prepared for it? You have a fake website? I have a real website for a real consulting company. It's just not the primary focus of my business interests. Evelyn turned in her seat to look at him. Jin-woo, who are you really? And don't give me the practice answer. I just watched you handle my family like a professional negotiator. You had responses ready for questions you couldn't have anticipated. That's not normal. Jin-woo was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful, measured. I told you I deal with sensitive corporate information. That's true. What I didn't mention is that sometimes those corporations operate in gray areas. Import, export, international logistics, things that require discretion and careful handling. I've learned to be very good at reading people and situations because my business depends on it. Gray areas, nothing illegal, just complicated. The kind of business that doesn't benefit from publicity. He glanced at her. Does that bother you? It should have. Any reasonable person would have been concerned. But Evelyn found herself saying, as long as you're not hurting anyone, I don't care what you do for a living. You're helping me when you don't have to, when you could be doing anything else with your time. That matters more than whatever gray areas you operate in. Jin-woo pulled up to her building and turned off the car. In the dim light from the street lamps, his face was all shadows and sharp angles. You're too trusting, Evelyn. It's going to get you hurt someday. Maybe, but I'd rather be too trusting than too cynical. She reached for the door handle, then paused. Thank you for tonight. You were perfect. Even Victoria couldn't find anything wrong. Evelyn, his voice stopped her. What I said in there, about why I'm with you, I meant it. Maybe more than I should. Before Evelyn could process what that meant, he was out of the car and opening her door. He walked her to her building entrance, and they stood there in the cold December night, breath fogging in the air between them. Merry almost Christmas, Jin-woo said softly. I'll see you on the 24th. We'll drive to your father's house together, present a united front. Perfect. Evelyn started to turn away, then impulsively stood on her toes and kissed his cheek. Thank you for everything. She was inside her building before she could see his reaction, her heart pounding like she'd just done something far more daring than kiss her fake boyfriend's cheek. As she rode the elevator up to her apartment, she touched the cherry blossom necklace and wondered what she'd gotten herself into. What Evelyn didn't know was that Jin-woo stood outside her building for a full 5 minutes after she'd gone inside, his hand touching the spot where her lips had brushed his skin. He was thinking about how her eyes lit up when she laughed, how she defended him to her stepmother without hesitation, how she saw good in people even when she probably shouldn't. He pulled out his phone and made a call in Korean. We have a problem. I'm getting too attached to the civilian. This was supposed to be simple cover, but it's becoming complicated. The voice on the other end spoke rapidly, and Jin-woo listened, his expression hardening. I understand. Christmas Day, after the family dinner, I'll extract myself. She'll never know the truth about who I really am or why I was in Seattle. It's better that way. He ended the call and got back in his car, but before he drove away, he looked up at Evelyn's building one more time. 3rd floor, 4th window from the left. Her light was on, and he could see her silhouette moving around her apartment. I'm sorry, he said quietly to the empty car. You deserved someone real. Then Jin-woo Park, heir to one of Korea's most powerful crime families, drove back to his safe house to prepare for a meeting that had nothing to do with international consulting and everything to do with the kind of business that happened in shadows. The days leading up to Christmas passed in a blur of preparations and anxiety. Evelyn threw herself into work, trying to distract herself from the complicated feelings that had taken root in her chest. Every time her phone buzzed with a message from Jin-woo, her heart did something embarrassing. Every time she remembered the way he'd looked at her when he said he meant what he'd told her family, she had to remind herself that this was a transaction, not a relationship. But it was getting harder to remember that. Jin-woo had been attentive in the week since they'd visited her father's house. He sent her good morning texts that felt too genuine to be part of the act. He'd had flowers delivered to her office with a note that said, "Because your coworkers should know someone is thinking about you." When she'd sent him a picture of a funny Christmas sweater she'd seen at the store, he'd responded with a photo of himself wearing an equally ridiculous one, making her laugh so hard she'd gotten strange looks on the bus. It felt real. That was the problem. It felt so real that Evelyn was starting to forget it wasn't. On December 23rd, her phone rang at 11 at night. Jin-woo's name lit up the screen, and Evelyn answered immediately, her heart jumping into her throat. "Is everything okay?" she asked, already imagining a dozen reasons why he might be calling to cancel. "Everything's fine." His voice sounded tired, stressed in a way she hadn't heard before. I needed to hear your voice. Is that strange?" Evelyn sat up in bed, pulling her blanket around her shoulders. "No, it's not strange. Are you sure you're okay? You sound off." "Long day, complicated business situation that didn't resolve the way I hoped." She heard him exhale slowly. "Tell me something good, Evelyn. Tell me something that has nothing to do with business or family or Christmas stress." Evelyn thought for a moment. "I saw the first star tonight when I was walking home from the grocery store. It was just there, bright and perfect against all the city light pollution. It made me think about how my mom used to say that stars were wishes the universe hadn't granted yet, waiting for the right moment. That's beautiful. Did you make a wish?" "I did." "Are you going to tell me what it was?" Evelyn smiled in the darkness of her bedroom. "If I tell you, it won't come true. That's the rule." "Fair enough." Jin-woo was quiet for a moment. "Evelyn, I need to tell you something. About tomorrow." Her stomach dropped. "You're canceling." "No, nothing like that. I want you to know that whatever happens, whatever you find out about me eventually, tonight was real. This conversation, the flowers, the texts, none of that was part of the job. I need you to know that." "Jin-woo, you're scaring me. What's going on?" "Nothing. I'm just tired and philosophical. Ignore me." His voice lightened, became more like the charming man she'd met in the coffee shop. "I'll pick you up at 4, tomorrow. Wear something that makes you feel confident. We're going to walk into that house and remind your stepmother exactly how lucky your father is that you still show up." After they hung up, Evelyn lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to decode what Jin-woo had been trying to tell her. "Whatever you find out about me eventually." What did that mean? What was there to find out? She fell asleep with her phone clutched in her hand, and she dreamed of stars that were really secrets, waiting to fall. Christmas Eve arrived with typical Seattle drizzle and gray skies. Evelyn spent the morning wrapping presents and trying on different outfits before settling on a deep red dress that her mother had bought her years ago. It still fit perfectly, hugging her curves in a way that made her feel elegant rather than self-conscious. She paired it with black heels and the cherry blossom necklace, and when she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Jin-woo arrived exactly at 4, and the look on his face when she opened the door made every anxious outfit change worth it. "Evelyn." He said her name like a prayer and a curse all at once. "You look absolutely stunning." "Thank you," she felt herself blushing. "You look pretty amazing yourself." He wore a dark suit that had definitely been tailored specifically for him, a white shirt and a tie in a shade of blue that matched her eyes. He held a gift bag in one hand and a bouquet of white roses in the other. "These are for you," he said, handing her the roses. "And this is for later. Don't open it until after dinner." Evelyn took both, feeling her heart do that complicated thing again. "Jin-woo, you didn't have to get me anything. I'm paying you to be here." His expression shifted, something almost hurt crossing his features. "I didn't buy this because you're paying me. I bought it because I wanted to. Because you deserve beautiful things, Evelyn Brown. She set the roses and the gift bag carefully on her counter, then grabbed her coat and purse. As they walked to his car, Jin-woo offered his arm, and she took it, fitting against his side like she'd been doing it for years instead of weeks. The drive to her father's house felt different this time. The nervous energy from their first visit had been replaced by something heavier, more significant. Evelyn found herself memorizing details. The way Jin-woo's hands looked on the steering wheel, the line of his jaw when he concentrated on the road, the subtle scent of his cologne that made her want to lean closer. "Are you ready for this?" Jin-woo asked as they pulled onto her father's street. "With you there, I think I can handle anything." He glanced at her, and there was something so intense in his gaze that Evelyn forgot to breathe. "I wish that were true. I wish I could protect you from everything." "Protect me from what?" Victoria's passive-aggressive comments? "I've survived those for 3 years." "Right. Of course." Jin-woo parked the car and turned to face her fully. "Evelyn, if things get complicated tonight, if something happens that you don't understand, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? You're doing that thing again where you're being cryptic and slightly ominous. It's unsettling. I know. I'm sorry. Just trust me. Please." Evelyn nodded, even though she had no idea what she was agreeing to. They got out of the car, and Jin-woo laced his fingers through hers as they walked to the front door. His hand was warm and solid, and Evelyn held on tighter than was probably necessary. Victoria opened the door in a glittering gold dress that probably cost more than Evelyn's monthly salary. Her smile was bright and sharp as glass. "Evelyn, Jin-woo, Merry Christmas. Come in, come in. Everyone's been asking about you." The house was full of people. Extended family, Victoria's friends, some of Richard's business associates. Evelyn recognized most of them from previous Christmases, and she braced herself for the onslaught of questions and scrutiny. But with Jin-woo beside her, it was different. He was attentive without being overbearing, charming without being fake. When Victoria's sister made a snide comment about Evelyn's dress being brave, Jin-woo immediately said, "I think she looks like a classic Hollywood starlet. Grace Kelly would be jealous." When one of Richard's golf buddies started a boring story about his portfolio, Jin-woo listened with genuine interest and asked intelligent questions that made the man light up. Evelyn watched him work the room and realized something that made her chest ache. Jin-woo was good at this because he'd been trained for it, not by an escort service, but by something else entirely. This was the Polish of someone who'd grown up in rooms like this, navigating social hierarchies and power dynamics. This wasn't a man pretending to fit in. This was a man who belonged in places far more intimidating than a Seattle suburb Christmas party. Dinner was announced, and they all moved to the dining room. Victoria had outdone herself. The table was set with china that had probably been in magazines, crystal glasses that caught the candlelight, and enough food to feed twice as many people. Evelyn found herself seated between Jin-woo and her father, directly across from Victoria and Clarissa. The meal started pleasantly enough. Richard gave a toast about family and gratitude. Victoria preened over compliments about the food. Clarissa talked about her latest influencer campaign. Evelyn felt herself relaxing, thinking maybe this would actually be okay. Then the doorbell rang. Victoria's expression flickered with something Evelyn couldn't identify. Annoyance? Anticipation? "Oh, that must be my surprise guest. Excuse me for just a moment." She swept out of the dining room, leaving confused murmurs in her wake. Evelyn looked at her father, who shrugged, clearly as mystified as everyone else. Jin-woo had gone very still beside her, his entire body tensed like he was preparing for something. Victoria returned with a man Evelyn had never seen before. He was Korean, probably in his 40s, impeccably dressed in a suit that screamed money and power. His face was pleasant enough, but his eyes were calculating, sharp. He surveyed the room until his gaze landed on Jin-woo, and then he smiled. "Everyone, this is Mr. Park Jae-sung," Victoria announced, practically glowing with self-satisfaction. He's visiting from Seoul on business, and when I mentioned my stepdaughter's boyfriend was also Korean, he was kind enough to accept my invitation to join us. I thought it would be nice for Jin-woo to have someone from home to talk to during dinner. Evelyn felt Jin-woo's hand find hers under the table and squeeze so hard it almost hurt. When she looked at him, his face was carefully blank, but she could see a muscle jumping in his jaw. The man, Jae-sung, moved around the table to where Jin-woo sat. Jin-woo Park, what an unexpected pleasure. I had no idea you were in Seattle. Jae-sung, Jin-woo stood, and the two men bowed to each other with a formality that felt loaded with meaning. It's been some time. Indeed, the last time I saw you was in Seoul, I believe. At your father's, how should I put it, memorial service. The room went silent. Evelyn's blood ran cold. Jin-woo had told them his father was retired, not dead. Victoria was watching the exchange with barely concealed glee, like a cat that had cornered a mouse. You must be mistaken, Jin-woo said smoothly. My father is very much alive and enjoying his retirement. Is he? Jae-sung's smile widened. How strange. I could have sworn I attended Park Sang-woo's funeral 18 months ago. The head of the Park family, gunned down in a territorial dispute. It was all over the Korean news. But perhaps I'm thinking of a different Park Sang-woo, Victoria gasped dramatically. Richard looked confused. Clarissa had her phone out, already Googling. Evelyn felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. Jin-woo's expression didn't change, but Evelyn could feel the danger radiating off him in waves. You're making quite serious accusations, Jae-sung. I'd be careful if I were you. Accusations? I'm simply sharing what I know. Tell me, does your lovely girlfriend know what you really do for a living? Does she know that the Park family controls half the underground operations in Seoul? That you've been wanted for questioning by 3 different governments? He turned to Evelyn with mock concern. My dear, do you have any idea who you're dating? Evelyn's mind was racing, trying to make sense of what was happening. Jin-woo's father was dead. He'd lied about that. And apparently, he was wanted by multiple governments. This man, Jae-sung, seemed to know Jin-woo's real identity, and Victoria had orchestrated this entire confrontation. I think you should leave, Richard said, finally finding his voice. This is a family dinner, not an interrogation. But this concerns your daughter's safety, Jae-sung protested. Jin-woo Park is not an international business consultant. He's a criminal, the heir to one of Korea's most powerful organized crime families. And if Victoria's investigation is correct, he's been using your daughter as cover while conducting illegal business in Seattle. All eyes turned to Jin-woo. Evelyn felt like she couldn't breathe. She wanted him to deny it, to laugh and explain that this was all a misunderstanding, that Jae-sung was lying. Instead, Jin-woo looked at her with an expression that broke her heart. Evelyn, I can explain. Oh my God, she whispered. It's true. All of it. Not all of it. Some of it is exaggerated. Some of it is... You lied to me. Evelyn pulled her hand away from his, feeling tears burn at her eyes. About everything. Your father. Your business. Who you are. I had to, for your safety. If you knew the truth, you'd be in danger. I'm dating a criminal. I think I'm already in danger. Victoria stood up, clearly savoring every moment of Evelyn's humiliation. I knew something was off about you. So I did some digging, made some international calls. Jae-sung here is an investigator who specializes in tracking down fugitives. When I showed him Jin-woo's picture, he recognized him immediately. Jin-woo turned to Jae-sung, and his voice was cold enough to freeze. You're not an investigator. You work for the Choi family, my family's biggest rival. How much did they pay you to blow my cover? Jae-sung shrugged. Enough. The Choi send their regards, by the way. They've been looking for you for months. You disappear to America, hide behind this nice little civilian girlfriend, think you're safe. But there's nowhere you can hide from us, Jin-woo. You know that. Evelyn stood up so fast, her chair fell backward. She looked at Jin-woo, at this man she'd started to care about, and she didn't even recognize him. The warmth in his eyes had been replaced by something cold and dangerous. This wasn't the man who'd sent her flowers and made her laugh. This was someone else entirely. "I need to leave," she said, her voice shaking. "I can't. I need to go." "Evelyn, please." Jin-woo reached for her, but she stepped back. "Let me explain. Not here, but somewhere we can talk." "Talk? You want to talk?" Evelyn felt hysteria bubbling up in her chest. "You lied about everything. Your name, your job, your family. Was any of it real? Or was I just some convenient cover story for whatever illegal business you're running?" "That's not fair. You know that's not how this started." "Do I? Because I don't know anything anymore. I don't know who you are. I don't even know if Jin-woo Park is your real name." Victoria was practically glowing with satisfaction. Richard looked stricken. Clarissa was recording everything on her phone, probably already planning how to monetize this drama for her followers. And Jae-sung watched it all with cold amusement. Jin-woo's phone buzzed insistently in his pocket. He ignored it the first time, but when it buzzed again immediately, his expression changed. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and swore in Korean. "I have to take this," he said, looking at Evelyn with desperation in his eyes. "Evelyn, please don't leave. Give me 5 minutes to handle this call, and then I'll tell you everything. The truth. All of it." "The truth? You wouldn't know the truth if it bit you." But Evelyn didn't move. Despite everything, despite the lies and the betrayal and the humiliation, she wanted to hear what he had to say. Jin-woo stepped out of the dining room, speaking rapidly in Korean as soon as he was out of earshot. Evelyn sank back into her chair, aware that everyone was staring at her. She felt like she might throw up. Richard came to stand beside her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Sweetheart, I'm so sorry. I had no idea Victoria was planning this." "Neither did I, Dad." Evelyn looked up at her stepmother, who was still standing at the head of the table like a queen surveying her kingdom. "Did it make you happy? Exposing him like that? Humiliating me in front of everyone?" "I was protecting you," Victoria said, but there was no warmth in her voice. "You were dating a criminal, Evelyn. A wanted man. What was I supposed to do? Just let you walk into danger? You were supposed to tell me privately, not orchestrate some dramatic reveal at Christmas dinner." "Where's the fun in that?" Clarissa muttered, still recording. Jae-sung set down his wine glass and stood. "Well, my work here is done. Jin-woo Park's location has been confirmed and reported. The Choi family will be very pleased. Thank you for the lovely dinner, Mrs. Brown." "Wait," Evelyn said, realization dawning. "You reported his location? To who?" "To people who have been looking for him for a very long time. There's a substantial bounty on information about Jin-woo's whereabouts. I intend to collect it." Evelyn felt panic rise in her chest. Whatever Jin-woo had done, whatever he'd lied about, she didn't want him hurt. "You can't do that. He's my guest here. You can't just..." "He's a criminal, Miss Brown, and criminals face consequences." The sound of glass shattering came from the other room, followed by raised voices. Jin-woo's voice, sharp and commanding, and at least 2 other male voices responding. Evelyn ran toward the sound without thinking, her heels clicking on the marble floor. She found Jin-woo in her father's study, his phone on the floor, 3 men in dark suits standing between him and the door. They weren't holding guns, but Evelyn could see the bulges under their jackets that suggested they could if they wanted to. "Evelyn, get back," Jin-woo said, not taking his eyes off the men. "This doesn't concern you." "The hell it doesn't. Who are these people?" One of the men, younger than the others, spoke in accented English. "Miss Brown, please step aside. We have business with Mr. Park." "This is my father's house. You're trespassing." "We were invited in by Mrs. Brown. She's been very helpful in locating Mr. Park for us." Evelyn's blood ran cold. Victoria had done more than just invite Jae-sung to dinner. She'd given these men access to the house, had helped them corner Jin-woo. All in the name of protecting Evelyn from a danger she'd never asked to be protected from. Jin-woo shifted his weight, and Evelyn recognized the stance from movies. He was preparing to fight. 3 against 1, and he looked ready to take the odds. "Please," Evelyn said, stepping between Jin-woo and the men. Whatever this is about, can't we discuss it without violence? It's Christmas Eve. The lead man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Christmas Eve in America, in Korea, it's already Christmas, a perfect day to settle old debts. Evelyn, move. Jin-woo's voice was low and urgent. These men are from the Choi family. They're not here to talk. The Choi family? Evelyn remembered Jin-woo mentioning them. His family's biggest rival, the ones Jae-sung worked for. What do they want? What we've always wanted, the lead man said. Control of the Park family territories, and that requires removing the last Park heir. Understanding crashed over Evelyn like a wave. They were here to kill Jin-woo. In her father's study, on Christmas Eve, they planned to murder him, and Victoria had helped them do it. No, Evelyn said firmly. You're not doing this. Not here. Not tonight. Miss Brown, you seem like a nice woman. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Evelyn? Jin-woo's hand was on her shoulder, trying to move her aside. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but you can't stop this. This is my world, my consequences. You don't belong here. Evelyn turned to look at him. This man who'd lied to her about everything, who'd put her in danger without her knowledge, who'd made her believe in something that wasn't real. She should walk away. She should let him handle his criminal business with his criminal rivals and go back to her safe, boring life. But when she looked in his eyes, she saw genuine fear, not for himself, but for her. I'm not leaving, she said quietly. We're in this together now. Jin-woo's expression shifted through a dozen emotions in seconds. Frustration, admiration, resignation, and something that looked dangerously close to love. You're the most stubborn woman I've ever met, he said, and despite everything, he was smiling. You're welcome. The Choi family men exchanged glances. The lead man sighed. Very well. If Miss Brown insists on being involved, we can accommodate that. Seize them both. Everything happened very fast after that. The men moved forward. Jin-woo pushed Evelyn behind him and met the first attacker with a move so smooth and practiced that Evelyn barely saw it. The man went down hard, his arm bent at an unnatural angle. The second man pulled a gun. Evelyn screamed. The study door burst open, and Richard Brown stood there with something Evelyn had never expected to see. Her father, quiet and passive Richard, was holding a shotgun. Nobody moves, Richard said, his voice steady. This is my house, and I don't care who you work for or what Jin-woo did. You're not killing anyone under my roof. The men froze. Victoria peered behind Richard, her face pale with shock. Clarissa was still recording, because of course she was. Jin-woo used the distraction to disarm the man with the gun, in a move that happened so fast Evelyn couldn't follow it. He stood there with the weapon pointed at the three men, his chest heaving, blood from a split lip trickling down his chin. Here's what's going to happen, Jin-woo said, his voice calm despite the chaos. You're going to leave this house. You're going to tell the Choi family that you couldn't find me. And in return, I won't kill you and leave your bodies in this nice man's study on Christmas Eve. The Choi family doesn't forgive failure, the lead man said. If we go back empty-handed, we're dead anyway. Then I suggest you don't go back. America is a big country. I'm sure you can find new identities, new lives. It's what I was trying to do before your friend Jae-sung ruined it. The men looked at each other, clearly weighing their options. Finally, the lead man nodded. We leave now. We never saw you. But Jin-woo, this isn't over. The Choi family won't stop looking. They never do. Jin-woo gestured toward the door with the gun. Get out, and tell Jae-sung if I see him again, he won't walk away. The men left quickly, disappearing into the night like shadows. Richard lowered the shotgun, his hands shaking slightly. Victoria stood frozen in the doorway, for once in her life completely speechless. Evelyn looked at Jin-woo, really looked at him, and saw him clearly for the first time. Not the charming consultant, not the perfect fake boyfriend, but a man who'd been running from something dangerous, who'd chosen her house and her family as a hiding place, who'd put all of them at risk because he was desperate. You need to leave, Evelyn said quietly. Right now, before more of them come. Evelyn, no, don't. She held up her hand, stopping whatever he was going to say. You lied to me. You used me. You put my father in danger. I need you to leave. Jin-woo looked like she'd stabbed him. He set the gun carefully on Richard's desk and pulled out his phone. He made a quick call in Korean, then turned back to Evelyn. I have a car coming. I'll be gone in 5 minutes. He stepped toward her, and she made herself stand still. Even though everything in her wanted to run to him or run away, she wasn't sure which. Evelyn, I need you to know something. Everything I told you at your family dinner about why I care about you, that was true. The job was fake, but my feelings weren't. How am I supposed to believe that? You've lied about everything else. I know, I don't expect you to believe me, but I needed to say it anyway. He pulled something from his pocket, the gift he'd given her earlier. I want you to have this. You don't have to open it now, but when you do, maybe you'll understand. He set the small wrapped box on the desk and backed toward the door. Evelyn watched him go, her heart breaking and her mind spinning with everything that had happened in the last hour. At the doorway, Jin-woo paused. I'm sorry for all of it. You deserved better than what I gave you. Then he was gone, and Evelyn was left standing in her father's study with her family, surrounded by the wreckage of the Christmas that was supposed to fix everything and had instead destroyed what little trust she had left in her own judgment. Victoria spoke first. Evelyn, I'm so sorry. I thought I was protecting you. I had no idea they would actually come here to... Get out, Evelyn said quietly. What? Get out of this room. You orchestrated this entire disaster. You invited a man into our home who reported Jin-woo's location to people who wanted to kill him. You could have gotten Dad hurt. You could have gotten all of us hurt. And for what? To prove that my boyfriend was too good to be true? Congratulations, Victoria. You were right. Are you happy now? Victoria left, Clarissa trailing behind her with her phone. Richard set down the shotgun and pulled Evelyn into a hug. I'm so sorry, sweetheart, he whispered. I should have protected you better. Dad, where did you even get a shotgun? Your grandfather's. I kept it after he died, just in case. I never thought I'd actually need it. He pulled back to look at her. Are you okay? No, Evelyn said honestly, but I will be. After her father left to check on the rest of the guests, Evelyn stood alone in the study. She picked up the small wrapped box Jin-woo had left, turning it over in her hands. Part of her wanted to throw it away, to forget everything about tonight and move on with her life. Instead, she carefully unwrapped it. Inside was a simple silver ring with a small engraving in Korean, and a note, written in Jin-woo's neat handwriting. The engraving translates to my truth. I know I lied about almost everything, but the way I feel about you is the only truth I have left. I'm sorry I couldn't be the man you deserved, but I'm grateful I got to pretend to be him, even for a little while. Be safe, Evelyn. Be happy. Forget about me. Evelyn slipped the ring onto her finger and realized she was crying. Not for the relationship that had never really existed, but for the man who'd been hiding behind all those lies. The man who'd looked at her like she was something precious. The man who'd made her believe, just for a moment, that she was worth loving. She walked back to the dining room where her family and their guests were still gathered, everyone talking in hushed, shocked tones. She went straight to Victoria. I'm leaving, Evelyn announced, and I won't be coming back for a while. Maybe not ever. Evelyn? Please. No, you crossed a line tonight, Victoria. You could have gotten people killed. You almost did. I need space from you, from this family, from all of it. She looked at her father. Dad, I love you, but until you're ready to stand up to her, I can't be here. I'm sorry. Richard's face crumpled, but he nodded. He understood. Evelyn walked out of her father's house into the cold December night. She called an Uber, standing on the sidewalk in her red dress and her mother's necklace and a ring from a man whose real name she probably didn't even know. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "I'm sorry. Stay safe. If you ever need anything at all, there's a number in the box. Call it and I'll come. No matter where I am or what's happening, I'll come for you. That's my promise. That's my truth." Evelyn looked at the wrapped box again and found a small card tucked inside with a phone number. She saved it in her phone under a name that felt more honest than anything else tonight had been. The Man Who Almost Was. Then she got in the Uber and went home to her apartment and her cat and her broken heart, and she tried to figure out how to put herself back together after the most disastrous Christmas of her life. What Evelyn didn't know was that Jin-woo sat in a car 3 blocks away, watching her building until her light came on. He made another call in Korean, his voice heavy with exhaustion and regret. "It's done. The cover is blown. I'm leaving Seattle tonight." "What about the girl?" Jin-woo touched his lip where it was split, tasted blood and regret in equal measure. "She's better off without me. She was always too good for this world. I just wished I could have protected her from finding out how dark it really is." "You care about her. It doesn't matter. Caring about people in our world only gets them killed. My father taught me that. My brother proved it." Jin-woo started the car. "I'm going back to Seoul. It's time to end this war with the Choi family once and for all. They came after her tonight. They used her to get to me. That's unforgivable." "Jin-woo, if you go back now, if you walk into their territory, then I walk into it. But I do it knowing she's safe. That's enough." He drove away from Evelyn's building, away from the one moment of genuine happiness he'd felt in years, back toward the darkness that had always been his destiny. But he kept his phone on, the contact he'd given Evelyn set to a special ringtone, just in case she ever needed him. Just in case there was still a chance for truth in a life built on lies. Evelyn didn't sleep that night. She sat on her couch with Mochi curled in her lap, the silver ring on her finger catching the light from the city outside her window. The events of the evening played on repeat in her mind like a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. Jin-woo's face when Jae-sung had exposed him, the cold professionalism of the Choi family men, her father holding a shotgun. Victoria's shocked expression when everything spiraled out of her control, and Jin-woo's eyes looking at her like she was the only real thing in his world of shadows and lies. At 3 a.m, Evelyn finally gave up on sleep and opened her laptop. She typed Jin-woo's name into the search bar, adding keywords this time. Park Jin-woo Seoul Crime Family, Park Sang-woo Death Korea, Korean Mafia Seattle. The results were mostly in Korean, but Google Translate was good enough to give her the broad strokes. Park Sang-woo, powerful businessman with suspected ties to organized crime, killed in a targeted attack 18 months ago. His eldest son, Park Min-ho, had died years earlier in a car accident that many believed was actually an assassination. That left Jin-woo, the younger son, as the sole heir to the Park family empire. There were a few blurry photos. Jin-woo in a dark suit at what looked like his father's funeral, his face a mask of grief and rage. Jin-woo leaving a courthouse in Seoul. Jin-woo getting into an expensive car, surrounded by men who were clearly bodyguards. He'd told her he had a brother who died. That much had been true. The rest, the international business consultant story, the retired father, all of it had been carefully constructed fiction to hide who he really was. Evelyn found an article from a Korean news site that had been translated to English. It detailed the ongoing war between the Park and Choi families, 2 of Seoul's most powerful criminal organizations. Territory disputes, violence, money laundering schemes worth hundreds of millions. The article mentioned that Jin-woo Park had disappeared 6 months ago, with rumors suggesting he'd fled to America to avoid retaliation from the Choi family. He hadn't been hiding behind her. He'd been hiding with her, using her family, her life, her Christmas dinner as camouflage while he figured out his next move. Evelyn slammed the laptop closed, feeling sick. She'd been so stupid, so desperate to prove Victoria wrong that she'd hired a stranger and let him into every corner of her life. And that stranger had turned out to be a fugitive criminal using her as cover. But then she remembered the way he'd pushed her behind him when the Choi men arrived. The way he'd looked terrified not for himself, but for her safety. The flowers he'd sent to her office, and the necklace he'd chosen because her mother loved cherry blossoms. The late-night phone call where he'd sounded lost and asked her to tell him something good. None of that had felt like manipulation. It had felt real. Evelyn looked at her phone, at the contact she'd saved. The man who almost was. One call and he'd promised to come, no matter where he was or what was happening. It was probably another lie. He was probably already back in Korea, dealing with his criminal empire, completely forgetting about the ordinary woman he'd used for a few weeks. But part of her, a small, reckless part she didn't want to acknowledge, wanted to call just to see if he'd answer. Christmas morning arrived gray and cold. Evelyn's phone buzzed with messages. Her father, checking if she was okay. Her best friend Maya, who'd heard about the disaster from Clarissa's Instagram livestream and was horrified. Even Victoria sent a message, though Evelyn deleted it without reading. There was nothing from Jin-woo. Evelyn spent Christmas alone in her apartment, eating leftover Chinese food and watching movies that required no emotional investment. Mochi seemed to sense her mood and stayed close, purring whenever she absently petted him. She kept looking at the silver ring, reading the engraving even though she'd memorized it. My truth. What truth? That he was a liar? That he was dangerous? Or that somewhere buried under all the deception, he'd actually cared about her? On December 26th, Evelyn went back to work. Her co-workers had clearly heard something about Christmas dinner, but nobody asked direct questions. They just gave her sympathetic looks and left coffee on her desk. Evelyn threw herself into projects, staying late, volunteering for extra assignments, anything to keep her mind occupied. A week passed, then 2. Evelyn started to believe that maybe Jin-woo really had disappeared from her life as completely as he'd entered it. She should have been relieved. Instead, she felt hollow. It was January 10th when everything changed again. Evelyn was leaving work late, her breath fogging in the Seattle winter air as she walked to the bus stop. She was scrolling through her phone, not paying attention to her surroundings, when a hand grabbed her arm and pulled her into the alley beside her office building. Evelyn opened her mouth to scream, but a hand covered it. A voice hissed in heavily accented English, "Don't scream, we just want to talk." The man who held her was Korean. Young, with cold eyes that reminded her terribly of the men from Christmas Eve. 2 more men appeared, blocking the alley exit. Evelyn's heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst. "Where is Jin-woo Park?" the first man demanded, removing his hand from her mouth but keeping his grip on her arm. "I don't know," Evelyn said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I haven't seen him since Christmas." "You're lying. The Park heir wouldn't abandon his woman. He must have contacted you." "I'm not his woman. It was fake. I hired him to pretend to be my boyfriend. That's all." The man's eyes narrowed. "Hired him? From where?" "A service. Platinum Companions. I needed a date for a family dinner. When everything happened at Christmas, he left. I haven't heard from him since." The men exchanged glances. One of them pulled out a phone and made a call, speaking rapidly in Korean. Evelyn's mind raced. Should she scream? Try to run? Her office building had security, but would they get to her in time? The man on the phone hung up and nodded to the others. "She's telling the truth. The Platinum Companion site is one of Park's money laundering fronts. She really was just a civilian he used for cover." "So she's useless to us," the first man said, sounding disappointed. "Not entirely." The second man stepped closer to Evelyn, and she saw him pull something from his jacket. A knife, the blade catching the streetlight. "We can't find Park, but we can send him a message. Let him know that anyone connected to him is fair game." Terror flooded through Evelyn. "Please, I don't know anything. I can't help you find him." "That's the point. This isn't about information. It's about making Park suffer." Evelyn did the only thing she could think of. She screamed as loud as she could, driving her knee up hard into the man holding her. He grunted and loosened his grip just enough for her to twist away. She ran toward the mouth of the alley, but the other men were faster. They grabbed her, slamming her against the brick wall hard enough to make stars explode in her vision. The knife was at her throat, cold metal against her skin. Evelyn closed her eyes, thinking about her mother and her father and Mochi and all the things she'd never get to do. Then she heard a sound like thunder, and the man with the knife collapsed. The other two spun around, and Evelyn saw him. Jin-woo stood at the entrance to the alley, dressed all in black, a gun in his hand. But it wasn't the gun that made the Choi men freeze. It was the look on Jin-woo's face, cold fury barely contained. "Step away from her," Jin-woo said, his voice deadly quiet. "Now." "Park," one of the men said. "We were just delivering a message." "You were about to kill an innocent woman. That's not a message. That's a declaration of war." "The war started when your father killed our boss's brother. This is just settling accounts." Jin-woo's gun never wavered. "Evelyn, come here." Evelyn's legs felt like water, but she made herself move. She stumbled toward Jin-woo, and he caught her with his free arm, pulling her behind him. The same protective gesture he'd made at Christmas, but this time she understood what it cost him. By protecting her, he was exposing himself to his enemies. "You have 3 seconds to leave this alley," Jin-woo said. "If you're still here after that, I start shooting. And unlike you, I don't miss." The Choi men looked at each other. They were clearly calculating odds, wondering if they could take Jin-woo. Whatever they saw in his eyes must have convinced them it wasn't worth the risk. They backed away slowly, then ran. Jin-woo didn't lower the gun until they were completely out of sight. Then he turned to Evelyn, and his mask cracked. "Are you hurt? Did they touch you?" "I'm okay. Scared, but okay." Evelyn was shaking now, adrenaline and shock hitting her all at once. "How did you know? How were you here?" "I've had people watching you since Christmas. I knew the Choi family would eventually figure out you were connected to me. I couldn't leave you unprotected." "You've been watching me for 2 weeks?" "Longer. Since the day we met, actually. I had to make sure you were really who you seemed to be before I took the job." Jin-woo tucked the gun into his jacket and cupped Evelyn's face with both hands, his thumbs gentle against her cheeks. "I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to touch you. I thought if I disappeared, they'd forget about you. They said I was useless except as a message to you." Evelyn's voice broke. "They were going to kill me just to hurt you." Jin-woo pulled her into his arms, and Evelyn let herself collapse against him. He was warm and solid and real, and for a moment she didn't care about the lies or the danger. She just needed someone to hold her together. "I won't let them hurt you," Jin-woo said fiercely. "I swear on everything I have, I will keep you safe." "How? They know about me now. They know where I work." "I know, which is why you can't stay here. You need to disappear for a while until I can end this." Evelyn pulled back to look at him. "End this how?" "However I have to. The Choi family wants war? I'll give them war, but first I need to get you somewhere safe." "Jin-woo, I can't just disappear. I have a job, an apartment, a life. And you won't have any of those things if you're dead." His voice was harsh, but his eyes were desperate. "Evelyn, please, let me protect you. It's the least I can do after dragging you into this nightmare." Evelyn thought about the knife at her throat, the cold certainty that she was about to die. She thought about going back to her apartment alone, knowing that men who wanted to hurt her knew where she lived. She thought about Jin-woo's promise. "Call and I'll come." "Okay," she said quietly. "Where are we going?" Relief flooded Jin-woo's face. "Somewhere they'll never think to look. Trust me." Evelyn looked at this man who'd lied to her about everything, who'd used her for cover, who'd put her in danger. This man who'd also sent her flowers and remembered her mother's favorite flower and looked at her like she was precious. This man who'd just saved her life without hesitation. "I trust you," she said, and meant it. Jin-woo's car was parked nearby, the same black Mercedes. He opened the door for her, checked the street carefully before getting in himself. As they drove away from her office, Evelyn watched the city lights blur past and wondered what she'd just agreed to. "Where are we going?" she asked again. "My safe house. It's outside the city, on the water. The Choi family doesn't know about it. We'll be secure there while I make arrangements." Arrangements for what? For ending this. For making sure you can go back to your normal life without looking over your shoulder constantly. Evelyn was quiet for a moment. "Jin-woo, what you said at Christmas about your feelings being real, was that true?" He glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "Yes, every word." "Then I need to know something. What's your real name? Not the name you use for business or the fake one you gave me. Your actual name." "It is Jin-woo Park. That part was true." "And your age? Your family? Anything else that was real?" Jin-woo's jaw tightened. "I'm 34. My father was Park Sang-woo and he was killed 18 months ago by the Choi family. My brother Min-ho died when I was 19. And what everyone said was an accident, but I know was murder. My mother died of cancer when I was 12. I have no other family. What do you actually do? Besides, crime?" "I run my father's businesses. Some of them are legitimate. Import, export companies, real estate holdings, restaurants. Others are less legal. Money laundering, protection services, facilitating certain transactions that people prefer to keep off the books. I've been trying to legitimize more of the operations, but the Choi family sees that as weakness. They want to absorb our territory, our resources. This war has been brewing for years." Evelyn absorbed this information. "Have you killed people?" Jin-woo was silent for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. "Yes, I have. In self-defense, in defense of my people, but yes. I'm not a good man, Evelyn. I wish I could tell you otherwise. I don't think you're as bad as you think you are. Bad men don't send flowers. They don't remember things about dead mothers. They don't put themselves in danger to save women they barely know. You don't know what I've done, the choices I've had to make. Then tell me. I want to know. Not the sanitized version, the real one." Jin-woo pulled off the highway onto a smaller road that wound through dense forest. "Why? So you can confirm that I'm a monster?" "No, so I can understand who you really are." They drove in silence for another 20 minutes before Jin-woo started talking. He told her about growing up in Seoul, the son of a powerful man who everyone feared. About watching his mother die slowly while his father threw money at doctors who couldn't save her. About his brother Min-ho, who had been kind and smart and had wanted to legitimize the family business before someone rigged his brakes and sent him off a bridge. He told her about being 19 years old and suddenly thrust into a world of violence and betrayal. About having to prove himself to men twice his age who thought he was too young, too soft, too American because he'd spent summers in Seattle with his mother's family. About the first time he'd had to hurt someone to protect himself and how he'd thrown up afterward. He told her about his father's death, about holding him as he bled out from gunshot wounds, about promising to end the war with the Choi family no matter what it cost, about running to Seattle because he'd needed to regroup, to plan, to figure out how to win a war he'd never wanted to fight. "The Platinum Companion's website is real," Jin-woo said as they turned onto a private driveway. "It's one of my businesses, a way to move money, but I don't usually take jobs. When your request came through, my assistant flagged it as potentially useful. I was looking for a reason to be in Seattle, a cover story that would give me freedom to move around. A fake relationship with an ordinary woman seemed perfect. But then you met me. But then I met you, and you were so different from anyone in my world. You worried about your stepmother's opinion and saved money for a condo. You loved your cat and missed your mother and wrote stories when you were young. You were real in a way nothing else in my life has been for years." They pulled up to a house that was more like a compound. High walls, security cameras, gates that required a code. The house itself was modern and beautiful, perched on a cliff overlooking Puget Sound. Jin-woo parked in an attached garage, checked his phone, then gestured for Evelyn to follow him inside. The house was immaculate, minimally furnished, but expensive. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the water and the city lights in the distance. It should have felt cold, but somehow it didn't. There were small touches that suggested someone actually lived here. Books on the shelves, a coffee maker on the counter, a blanket draped over the sofa. "You'll be safe here," Jin-woo said. "The security system is state-of-the-art. Only 3 people know this location, and I trust them with my life." Evelyn set down her purse, suddenly aware that she had nothing with her. No change of clothes, no toiletries, nothing. "I can't stay here indefinitely. I have to go to work, pay my rent, feed Mochi. I've already arranged for your cat to be collected and brought here. Your rent is paid for the next 3 months. As for work, I've set up a secure laptop. You can work remotely if your company allows it. If not, I'll compensate you for the lost wages. You've thought of everything. I've had 2 weeks to plan. I knew eventually the Choi family would make a move." Jin-woo moved to the kitchen and pulled out a bottle of whiskey. "Do you want a drink? I think we both need one." Evelyn nodded. Jin-woo poured 2 glasses, handed her one, and then surprised her by sitting on the floor in front of the window rather than on the furniture. Evelyn joined him, and they sat side by side, looking out at the dark water. "What happens now?" Evelyn asked. "Now I go to war. I've been gathering intelligence for weeks, mapping the Choi family's operations, identifying their weaknesses. I didn't want to act until I had a solid plan, but they forced my hand by going after you." "So you're going back to Korea?" "Eventually. First, I need to handle their operations in Seattle. They have people here, money here, influence here. I'm going to dismantle it piece by piece until they have no choice but to negotiate." "That sounds dangerous." "It is, which is why you're staying here, where you're safe." Evelyn turned to look at him. "And what about you? Who keeps you safe?" Jin-woo smiled, but it was sad. "I stopped being safe the day my brother died. This is my life, Evelyn. Danger and violence, and always looking over my shoulder. It's what I was born into." "It doesn't have to be. You said you were trying to legitimize the businesses. You could still do that." "Not while the Choi family exists. They see any attempt at legitimacy as abandoning my father's legacy, as disrespecting the old ways. They won't stop until one of us is completely destroyed." Evelyn sipped her whiskey, feeling the burn all the way down. She should be terrified. She should be demanding that Jin-woo take her back to her apartment, that she file a police report, that she run as far from this mess as possible. Instead, she found herself saying, "What if I could help?" Jin-woo turned to stare at her. "Absolutely not. Hear me out. You need information about the Choi family's operations, right? Their contacts, their money flows, their vulnerabilities?" "Yes, but I work in marketing. I'm good at research, at finding patterns, at understanding how organizations work. Let me help. Give me access to whatever information you have and let me analyze it. Maybe I'll see something your people missed." "Evelyn, this isn't a corporate project. This is life and death." "I know, which is why I want to help. They threatened me tonight. They were going to kill me just to hurt you. I'm already involved, Jin-woo. Let me be involved on my terms." Jin-woo searched her face, and Evelyn held his gaze. She saw the moment he realized she was serious, the moment he started to consider it. "You're insane," he said finally. "Completely insane." "Maybe, but I'm also here and I'm offering. Use me." "I've already used you enough." "Then let me choose to help. That's different." Jin-woo drained his whiskey glass and stood, pacing in front of the windows. "If I agree to this, if I let you help, you follow my rules. You stay in this house. You don't leave without armed security. You don't contact anyone from your old life. And if I say it's too dangerous, you stop immediately. Agreed? Agreed. He held out his hand and Evelyn shook it. His grip was warm and firm, and he held on a moment longer than necessary. I should get you settled, Jin-woo said. The guest room is upstairs. There are clothes in the closet that should fit you. Basic toiletries in the bathroom. Your cat will be here by morning. Where will you sleep? I won't. I have work to do. Evelyn stood and touched his arm. Jin-woo, thank you for saving me tonight. For everything. He covered her hand with his. I'm the reason you needed saving. But you're welcome anyway. Evelyn went upstairs to the guest room, which was as minimalist and expensive as the rest of the house. She showered, washing away the terror of the evening, and changed into a soft t-shirt she found in the closet. It smelled like Jin-woo's cologne, which meant it was probably his. She should have felt strange, sleeping in a stranger's house wearing his clothes, but instead she felt safe for the first time since Christmas Eve. Downstairs, Jin-woo sat at a desk covered with papers and maps, making calls in Korean. But every few minutes, he glanced toward the stairs, checking that Evelyn was still there, still safe, still real. He'd meant what he said. His feelings were the only truth he had left. And if keeping her safe meant burning down everything the Choi family had built, then he'd do it without hesitation. The war had been brewing for 18 months. Now, finally, it was about to begin in earnest, and Jin-woo Park was done running. Evelyn woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the sound of waves against rocks. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then it all came rushing back. The alley, the knife, Jin-woo appearing like some avenging angel. She was in his safe house, hidden from people who wanted to hurt her, preparing to help a man she barely knew fight a war she didn't understand. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt strangely calm. Evelyn found Jin-woo downstairs in what looked like a home office, still wearing the same clothes from last night. Papers were spread across every surface, and his laptop showed what looked like financial spreadsheets. He had dark circles under his eyes, but he looked up when she entered, and his expression softened. You're awake, did you sleep? Better than I expected. You look like you didn't sleep at all. I had things to finish. Jin-woo stood and stretched, his shirt pulling tight across his shoulders. There's coffee in the kitchen. Your cat arrived about an hour ago. I put him in the guest room, but he's been exploring. As if on cue, Mochi appeared and wound around Evelyn's legs, purring. She picked him up, grateful for something familiar and normal. Thank you for getting him, she said. I was worried. I promised to keep you safe. That includes the things you love. The way he said it made Evelyn's chest tighten. She carried Mochi to the kitchen and found fresh coffee, pastries that looked like they'd been delivered, and fruit. Jin-woo followed and poured himself another cup of coffee, his fourth or fifth judging by the empty cups in the sink. So, Evelyn said, settling at the kitchen island with her breakfast, tell me about the Choi family. Everything. If I'm going to help, I need to understand what we're dealing with. Jin-woo leaned against the counter, studying her like he was still trying to figure out if she was real. The Choi family has been in organized crime for 3 generations. They control most of the gambling operations in Seoul, significant portions of the drug trade, and various legitimate businesses they use for money laundering. Their current head is Choi Dae-jung, who's about 60 and absolutely ruthless. How long has your family been at war with them? Openly? Since my father's death. But the tension goes back decades. My grandfather and Choi's father were partners once, but they had a falling out over territory. Instead of splitting peacefully, they became rivals. For years, it was mostly posturing and small territorial disputes. Then Choi's younger brother tried to move into one of my father's operations. There was a confrontation, and the brother ended up dead. Your father killed him? My father ordered it. Yes. It was self-defense in our world, but the Choi family saw it as an act of war. They've been systematically targeting my family ever since. My brother's death, my father's death, all of it traces back to them. Evelyn absorbed this information, and now they're in Seattle. Why? Money laundering primarily. Seattle has a significant Korean population, good port access, and enough legitimate business activity to hide illegal operations. Both our families have been using the city for years, but we had an unspoken agreement to stay out of each other's way here. By coming after you, they broke that agreement. So, what's your plan? Jin-woo pulled out a tablet and brought up a map covered in colored pins and notes. The Choi family has 5 main operations in Seattle. A restaurant that's actually a front for illegal gambling, a shipping company they use to move goods, a real estate firm for money laundering, a nightclub where they conduct meetings, and a warehouse where they store, well, things that shouldn't be stored. And you want to hit all of them? Not hit. Dismantle. I want to expose them, get them shut down legally if possible, force them to lose money and influence. I want Choi Dae-jung to understand that Seattle is off limits, that coming after innocent people has consequences. Evelyn studied the map. This is a lot of moving parts. You'd need perfect timing. Which is why I've been planning for weeks. I have people in place, evidence gathered, connections with law enforcement. But I need more. I need to understand their complete network, find the weak points they don't even know they have. That's where I come in. Jin-woo nodded slowly. That's where you could come in if you really want to do this. But Evelyn, once you start, once you see everything, you can't unsee it. You'll know things that could put you in more danger? Are you sure? Evelyn thought about the knife at her throat, about Victoria's smug satisfaction when she'd exposed Jin-woo, about all the times she'd played it safe and small and let other people make her decisions. She thought about her mother, who'd been a prosecutor before cancer took her, who'd taught Evelyn that sometimes you had to stand up even when it was scary. I'm sure, she said firmly. Show me what you have. They spent the next 6 hours in Jin-woo's office. He showed her everything. Financial records obtained through methods she decided not to ask about, surveillance photos, intercepted communications, organizational charts. The Choi family's Seattle operation was more extensive than Evelyn had imagined, with tentacles reaching into legitimate businesses and city government. But as Evelyn studied the information with her marketing analyst's eye, she started seeing patterns, money flows that didn't make sense, relationships between businesses that seemed random, but probably weren't, weak links in the chain. Here, she said, pointing to a series of transactions. This real estate company, they're buying properties through shell corporations, but look at the timing. Every purchase happens within days of a large deposit into this account. They're not even trying to hide the connection. Jin-woo leaned over her shoulder, close enough that she could smell his cologne. I saw those transactions, but I didn't think they were significant. They're very significant. If we can trace the shell corporations back to the Choi family, we can show a clear pattern of money laundering. That's enough to get federal investigators interested. And if federal investigators get interested, the Choi family loses their American operations entirely. Jin-woo's voice held something like admiration. That's brilliant, Evelyn. She felt herself flush with pleasure. It's just pattern recognition. I do this all day at work, just usually for ad campaigns instead of crime families. They worked through lunch, Evelyn finding connections and Jin-woo verifying them against his intelligence. By late afternoon, they had a clear picture of the Choi family's vulnerabilities. Evelyn had created a presentation because that's what she did, complete with charts and timelines and action items. Jin-woo stared at it with something like awe. You turned organized crime into a PowerPoint. I turn everything into PowerPoints. It's a gift. Evelyn saved the file and stretched. So, what now? Now I contact my people and start putting things in motion. The restaurant first, I think. It's their most visible operation, and shutting it down will send a message. Jin-woo's phone buzzed, and he frowned at the screen. I need to take this call. It's one of my contacts in Seoul. Make yourself at home, there's food in the fridge if you're hungry. He stepped onto the deck overlooking the water, speaking rapid Korean. Evelyn watched him through the window, noting how different he looked when he was in work mode. The charm disappeared, replaced by cold efficiency. This was Jin-woo Park, the crime boss, not Jin-woo Park, the fake boyfriend. Evelyn wondered which version was the real him. Or maybe they both were. She explored the house while he was on the call. It was larger than she'd initially realized, with 4 bedrooms, a gym, a media room, and what looked like a panic room behind a hidden door in the master bedroom. The furnishings were expensive, but impersonal, like a very upscale hotel. The only personal touches were in Jin-woo's bedroom. Photos on the dresser. A woman who must have been his mother. Beautiful and kind-looking. A young man who looked like Jin-woo but softer. Probably his brother Minho. An older man with Jin-woo's eyes and a hardness that suggested he'd seen too much violence. His father. There were books on the nightstand, an eclectic mix of Korean literature and American thrillers. A jacket hung over a chair, expensive cashmere, and on the desk, hidden under some papers, a photo that made Evelyn's breath catch. It was her. From Christmas Eve, wearing her red dress and the cherry blossom necklace. She was laughing at something, her face lit up with genuine joy. Evelyn didn't remember this photo being taken. Jin-woo must have captured it when she wasn't looking. He'd kept it. Even after everything had exploded, even after he'd left, he'd kept a photo of her. That was supposed to be hidden better, Jin-woo's voice came from the doorway. Evelyn spun around, clutching the photo. Why do you have this? He stepped into the room, his expression unreadable. Because it's how I want to remember you. Happy and safe and completely unaware of the darkness I was about to bring into your life. Jin-woo, I meant what I said on Christmas Eve. My feelings for you are the only real thing I have. Everything else is lies and violence and compromises I never wanted to make. But when I look at you, I remember what it feels like to be human instead of just a weapon my family forged. Evelyn set down the photo carefully. You keep talking about yourself like you're some kind of monster, but I don't see that. I see someone who's trying to protect people. Someone who sent his men to watch me even after I told you to leave. Someone who looks at me like I'm the best thing that ever happened to him. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. That's why you should run as far from me as possible. What if I don't want to run? Jin-woo closed his eyes briefly like he was in pain. Evelyn, don't make this harder than it already is. Make what harder? Being honest about how we feel? There is no we. There can't be. My world destroys everything good. My mother, my brother, my father, everyone I've ever cared about ends up dead or broken. I won't do that to you. Evelyn crossed the room until she was standing directly in front of him. You don't get to make that decision for me. I'm an adult. I get to choose what risks I take and who I care about. And I choose you, Jin-woo Park. The real you, not the fake boyfriend or the crime boss, but the man who remembers that my mother loved cherry blossoms and calls me in the middle of the night just to hear my voice. You don't know what you're asking for. Then show me. Stop protecting me from the truth and show me who you really are. All of it. And let me decide if it's too much. Jin-woo looked at her with such longing it made her chest ache. Then, slowly, carefully, he cupped her face in his hands. You're going to regret this. Maybe, but it'll be my choice to regret. He kissed her then, and it was nothing like the staged kisses they'd shared in front of her family. This was desperate, and real, and full of all the things they'd been too afraid to say. Evelyn wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him back, pouring everything she felt into it. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jin-woo rested his forehead against hers. I don't deserve you. Probably not, but you have me anyway. They stood there for a long moment, holding each other, before Jin-woo's phone shattered the peace. He swore in Korean and answered it, his expression hardening as he listened. When? He demanded. How many? A pause. Secure the perimeter. I'm on my way. He ended the call and looked at Evelyn with regret. I have to go. There's a situation at one of my warehouses downtown. Choi family is making a move. Is it dangerous? Probably. But I have good people. We'll handle it. He grabbed a jacket and a gun from a drawer in his nightstand. Stay here. Don't open the door for anyone except me or the security team. Their names are David, Chen, and Yuki. Anyone else, you hit the panic button in the kitchen. Understood? Jin-woo, be careful. He kissed her again, quick and fierce. I'll come back, I promise. Then he was gone, and Evelyn was alone in the big house with Mochi and her racing thoughts. She went back to the office and pulled up the security camera feeds on Jin-woo's computer. She could see the perimeter of the property, multiple angles, everything in high definition. And she could see the black SUV that had just pulled up to the gate. Evelyn's heart jumped into her throat. The SUV didn't match the descriptions of the security team's vehicles. She zoomed in and saw 3 men getting out, all Korean, all moving with the kind of purpose that suggested they knew exactly where they were going. The Choi family had found the safe house. Evelyn hit the panic button in the kitchen, and immediately alarms started blaring throughout the house. Red lights flashed. Automated security shutters began descending over the windows. Her phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. Miss Brown, this is David from the security team. We see the breach. Stay inside and get to the panic room. We're 3 minutes out. They're cutting through the gate, Evelyn said, watching the security feed. One of the men had bolt cutters and was making quick work of the lock. 2 minutes. Get to the panic room now. Evelyn grabbed Mochi and ran upstairs to Jin-woo's bedroom. The panic room door was hidden behind a bookshelf that swung open when she pressed the right spot. Inside was a small reinforced space with its own air supply, communications equipment, and enough supplies to last for days. She locked herself in just as she heard glass breaking downstairs. The panic room had its own security feed. Evelyn watched as 3 men entered Jin-woo's house, moving room to room with military precision. They were looking for her, and they would eventually figure out where she was hiding. Evelyn pulled out her phone and called the number Jin-woo had given her, the one she'd saved as the man who almost was. He answered on the first ring. Evelyn? What's wrong? They found the safe house. 3 men. They're inside. I'm in the panic room, but I'm 10 minutes away. Don't open that door for anyone. The panic room can withstand anything they try. Just stay put. Jin-woo, they knew where to find me. How did they know? She heard him swear viciously. Someone talked. Someone in my organization gave them the location. I'll deal with them later. Right now, I'm coming for you. 9 minutes. The line went dead. Evelyn watched the security feed as the men searched the house. They were systematic and thorough, and it was only a matter of time before they found the panic room entrance. One of them stopped in front of the bookshelf, studying it. He reached out and pressed where Evelyn had pressed, and the door swung open. Evelyn watched him approach the panic room door and smiled grimly at the camera. He said something in Korean, probably telling her to come out. When she didn't respond, he pulled out a small device and attached it to the door lock. They're trying to breach the door, Evelyn said into her phone, though Jin-woo had already hung up. David, are you there? 2 minutes out, the security guard's voice crackled over the panic room's communication system. That door will hold for at least 10 minutes. We'll be there before they get through. But Evelyn had a terrible feeling that 10 minutes might not be enough. The explosion was small but effective. The panic room door buckled but didn't break. The men outside started working on it with tools, metal screeching against metal. Evelyn clutched Mochi and tried to think. Her laptop was in the panic room, connected to the secure network. She pulled it out and logged into Jin-woo's systems. If she was going to die here, she'd at least make sure the evidence against the Choi family got out. She sent the PowerPoint presentation and all the supporting documents to every contact Jin-woo had in law enforcement. FBI, local police, federal prosecutors. Then she uploaded it to 3 different cloud storage services with instructions to release it publicly if she didn't cancel the timer. The door buckled further. Evelyn could hear voices outside, arguing in Korean. Then suddenly, gunfire. A lot of it. The security team had arrived. Evelyn watched the feed as David and two others engaged the Choi family men in Jin-woo's bedroom. It was brutal and efficient, over in less than a minute. The Choi men were down, unconscious or dead. Evelyn couldn't tell. "Miss Brown, you can come out now," David's voice came over the comm. "The threat has been neutralized." Evelyn opened the panic room door on shaking legs. David was a large man in his 40s with kind eyes and a gun that had clearly just been fired. He holstered it and gave her a reassuring smile. "You okay?" "Define okay," Evelyn said, still clutching her cat. "Fair point. Boss is pulling up now. You'll want to see him." Evelyn made it downstairs just as Jin-woo burst through the front door. He took one look at her and crossed the room in 3 strides, pulling her into his arms so tightly she could barely breathe. "You're safe," he said against her hair. "Thank God. You're safe." "I sent all the evidence out," Evelyn said, her voice muffled against his chest. "To everyone you had contacts with. If something had happened to me, at least the Choi family would go down too." Jin-woo pulled back to look at her, something like awe in his expression. "You were in a panic room being attacked and you were thinking about taking them down?" "I was thinking about a lot of things. Mostly about how I just told you I chose you, and it would be really unfair if I died before we got to see where this goes." He kissed her, hard and desperate and grateful. When they broke apart, his eyes were suspiciously bright. "You're the bravest person I've ever met." "I'm really not. I'm terrified." "Brave isn't not being scared. It's being scared and doing it anyway." Jin-woo looked at David. "How did they find this location?" "We're working on that. But boss, we have a bigger problem. 2 of them survived and they're talking. They say Choi Dae-jung himself is in Seattle. He came personally to oversee operations." Jin-woo's expression went cold. "Dae-jung is here? In the city?" "Apparently, they were ordered to grab Miss Brown and use her as leverage to draw you out for a face-to-face meeting." "Then that's what we'll do. Set up a meet. Somewhere public enough that he can't try anything obvious, private enough that we can talk." "Jin-woo, that's exactly what they want," Evelyn protested. "It's a trap." "I know, but it's also an opportunity. Dae-jung wouldn't come to America unless he was desperate. The evidence you just sent out will destroy his Seattle operations within days. He needs to negotiate, whether he wants to admit it or not. Or he wants to kill you personally. That too." Jin-woo smiled grimly. "Either way, this war ends soon. One way or another." The meeting was set for 2 days later at a private dining room in one of Seattle's high-end hotels. Neutral ground, with security from both sides. Jin-woo spent those 2 days making preparations, moving assets, securing loyalties, and repeatedly trying to convince Evelyn to leave the city entirely. She refused. "I'm seeing this through," she said firmly on the morning of the meeting. "I started this by hiring you for Christmas dinner. I'm finishing it." "You're not coming to the meeting." "I know, but I'm not leaving Seattle either. I'm staying at the safe house with the security team, and I'm going to be there when you get back." Jin-woo looked like he wanted to argue, but instead he just pulled her close. They'd spent the past 2 nights together, not sleeping much, both aware that this might be all the time they'd have. Evelyn had learned the geography of his scars, the nightmares that woke him at 3 a.m., the way he looked at her like she was something precious he didn't know how to protect. "If something happens to me," Jin-woo said quietly, "David has instructions. You'll be taken care of financially, and you'll be protected. The evidence against the Choi family will ensure they can't come after you. Nothing's going to happen to you." "Evelyn, no, I'm not entertaining that possibility. You're going to go to this meeting, you're going to end this war, and you're going to come back to me. That's the only acceptable outcome." He smiled despite himself. "You're very bossy. I learned from the best." She kissed him softly. "Come back to me, Jin-woo Park." "I will. I promise." Evelyn watched from the safe house as Jin-woo left with his security team. She had access to the security feeds from the hotel, courtesy of Jin-woo's hackers, and she watched as he arrived with 5 men. They were searched at the door and allowed into the private dining room. Choi Dae-jung was already there, an older man with silver hair and eyes like ice. He had 4 bodyguards with him. The 2 sides took seats across from each other at a long table, and Evelyn turned up the audio feed. "Park Jin-woo," Choi said in Korean, his voice dubbed into English by Jin-woo's translation software. "You look like your father. He was a worthy enemy." "And you look like a man who's about to lose everything," Jin-woo replied in English, probably for the benefit of his American security team. "Your Seattle operations are finished. By tomorrow morning, federal agents will be raiding every one of your businesses. You'll lose millions." "Perhaps, but I'll still have Seoul. Can you say the same?" "Seoul is changing. The old ways are dying. The government is cracking down on organized crime. The legitimate businesses are becoming more profitable than the illegal ones. We could both benefit from peace." Choi laughed, but it wasn't a pleasant sound. "Peace? Your father killed my brother. Your people have been systematically destroying my operations for 18 months, and you want peace? I want an end to the violence. My father is dead. Your brother is dead. How many more people have to die before you're satisfied?" "Everyone you love," Choi said simply. "That's how this works. An eye for an eye until one of us has no eyes left." Evelyn's blood ran cold. She watched Jin-woo's expression harden. "Then you've already failed," Jin-woo said. "Everyone I loved was already taken from me. My mother, my brother, my father, there's no one left for you to hurt." "What about that woman? The one my men tried to take 2 days ago?" "She's nobody. A civilian I used for cover. She means nothing to me." Evelyn's chest tightened. She knew he was lying to protect her, but hearing the words still hurt. Choi smiled like a shark. "You're lying. My men saw how you looked at her. The great Jin-woo Park, ice-cold killer, and you've fallen in love with an ordinary American woman. How disappointing." "Believe what you want. I'm here to offer you a deal. Leave Seattle. Leave my operations alone. In return, I won't destroy everything you've built in Korea. I have enough evidence to bring down your entire organization. Politicians you've bribed, police you've corrupted, businesses you control, all of it documented and ready to be released." "You're bluffing." Jin-woo pulled out a tablet and slid it across the table. Evelyn watched Choi's expression change as he scrolled through the information. Everything she'd compiled, everything Jin-woo's people had gathered, all of it in one damning collection. "This is the deal," Jin-woo said. "We both step back. We both legitimize our operations. We both survive. Or we both go to prison and destroy everything our families built. Your choice." Choi stared at the tablet for a long time. Then he looked up, and Evelyn saw something in his eyes that terrified her. Not anger or fear, but calculation. "There is a third option," Choi said slowly. "We merge our families, combine our resources and operations. Together, we'd be unstoppable." "I'm listening." "A marriage alliance, traditional, but effective. You marry my daughter, we unite our territories, and we split the profits 50-50. Everyone wins." Evelyn felt like she'd been punched. A marriage alliance. Jin-woo would have to marry someone else, someone from Choi's family, to end the war. She watched Jin-woo's face on the security feed, trying to read his expression. He looked at Choi for a long moment. "Let me think about it," Jin-woo said finally. "I'll give you an answer in 24 hours. "Don't take too long. My patience has limits." Choi stood, and his bodyguards moved with him. "And Jin-woo, if you choose war, I'll make sure that woman of yours suffers first. Nobody means nothing, remember that." The meeting ended. Jin-woo left the hotel with his team, his expression unreadable. Evelyn sat in the safe house, feeling sick. 24 hours to decide between peace through a political marriage or continued war. She knew which choice made sense. She knew what Jin-woo should do. That didn't make it hurt any less. Jin-woo returned to the safe house an hour later. He found Evelyn on the deck overlooking the water, Mochi in her lap, staring at nothing. "You watched the meeting," he said. It wasn't a question. "I did." "Then you know what he offered." "I do." Jin-woo sat beside her, close enough to touch but not touching. "I need to tell you something." "Don't," Evelyn said quietly. "Don't tell me you're going to marry his daughter. Don't tell me it's for the greater good, or to protect me, or to end the war. Just don't." "I wasn't going to say that." Evelyn turned to look at him, surprised. "You weren't?" "No, I was going to say that I've spent my entire life doing what other people expected. Following my father's path, taking over his business, being the heir he needed me to be. I've made every decision based on duty and responsibility and what was best for the family." He took her hand. "But for once, just once, I want to choose what I want. And I want you." "Jin-woo, you can't. The war will continue until one of us is dead anyway. Choi has no intention of honoring any agreement. He's old school. To him, my father's death will never be avenged until I'm dead too. A marriage alliance wouldn't change that. It would just give him better access to kill me." "Then what are you going to do?" Jin-woo smiled, and there was something fierce in it. "Something my brother would have done. Something I should have done 18 months ago. I'm going to legitimize everything, all of it. The businesses, the operations, everything. I'm going to work with the federal prosecutors, give them everything they need to take down the Choi family completely. And then I'm going to walk away from it all." Evelyn stared at him. "Walk away? From your family business?" "It's not my family anymore. They're all dead. What's left is just a machine that grinds people up and spits them out. I don't want to be part of that machine anymore. I want to be someone who could deserve you. You already deserve me. Then let me prove it. Let me choose you over duty for the first time in my life. Let me be brave enough to walk away from everything I was taught to value and toward the one thing that actually matters." Evelyn felt tears streaming down her face. "They'll kill you. The Choi family won't just let you walk away." "Probably not, which is why I need to know something first." Jin-woo cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs wiping away her tears. "If I do this, if I burn everything down and somehow survive, would you want me? Not the crime boss or the fake boyfriend, but just me, Jin-woo Park, with no family empire and no power and nothing but a questionable past and a lot of therapy in his future?" Evelyn laughed through her tears. "You idiot. I never wanted the crime boss. I just wanted you." "Is that a yes?" "That's a yes." He kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, he was smiling, really smiling, in a way she'd never seen before. "Okay then, let's burn it all down and see what rises from the ashes." The next 3 days were chaos. Jin-woo met with federal prosecutors and gave them everything: financial records, witness testimony, evidence of corruption and money laundering, and every crime the Choi family had committed in America. The raid started within hours. Police and federal agents hit every Choi family operation simultaneously. Evelyn watched it unfold on the news. The restaurant shut down, owners arrested, the shipping company's CEO in handcuffs, the real estate firm's offices swarmed by FBI agents. It was systematic and brutal and effective. Choi Dae-jung disappeared, probably on a private jet back to Korea. But his American operations were destroyed, and the evidence Jin-woo had provided would make it impossible for him to operate openly ever again. Jin-woo's own businesses came under scrutiny too. He'd anticipated this and had already started the process of legitimizing everything months ago. What couldn't be legitimized, he shut down, giving generous severance to employees and making sure no one was left hanging. It cost him almost everything: the power, the influence, the fear people had when they heard his name. But he did it without hesitation, and Evelyn fell more in love with him every day. 2 weeks after the raids, Jin-woo got a call from Seoul. His mother's brother, an uncle he barely knew, had been following the news. "You're destroying everything your father built," the uncle said in Korean. Jin-woo, translating for Evelyn, who sat beside him. "I'm destroying everything that was killing me," Jin-woo replied. "There's a difference. The family will never forgive you. The family is dead. I'm all that's left, and I choose to live instead of just survive." He hung up and looked at Evelyn. "So that's it. I'm officially disowned by the extended family. No more Park heir, just Jin-woo." "Just Jin-woo," Evelyn repeated. "I like the sound of that." "Me too, but peace didn't come easily. 2 days later, there was an attempt on Jin-woo's life. A sniper took a shot as he left the safe house, missing by inches because David had pushed him out of the way at the last second. David took the bullet in his shoulder but survived. Choi Dae-jung's message was clear. Walking away wouldn't save him. Jin-woo made a decision. He contacted every major crime family in Korea and arranged a meeting. Not in Seattle or Seoul, but in neutral territory, Tokyo. He told them all the same thing. He was out. He'd given everything to the federal prosecutors. Anyone who came after him now would bring down law enforcement attention on all of them. It was a brilliant strategy. The crime families valued their operations more than revenge. Within a week, the word went out. Park Jin-woo was untouchable. Anyone who went after him would face consequences from everyone else. Even Choi Dae-jung couldn't fight everyone at once. Evelyn watched Jin-woo navigate this impossible situation and marveled at his intelligence and his courage. He was reshaping his entire world, burning down everything he'd known, all for the chance at something different. All for her. Christmas came again, exactly 1 year after the disaster that had started everything. Evelyn invited Jin-woo to her new apartment, a place she'd rented after deciding she couldn't go back to her old building. It was smaller than his safe house, but homier, with her books and mochi and actual personality in the decorating. Jin-woo arrived with presents and actual nervousness. "I've never celebrated Christmas like this. Just 2 people, no family, no expectations." "Well, you're about to learn. First rule, too many cookies are not enough cookies." They spent the day together cooking a meal that was probably terrible, but tasted perfect anyway. They watched movies and exchanged gifts and did absolutely nothing productive. It was normal and domestic and everything Jin-woo had never had. As the evening wound down, Jin-woo pulled out a small box. Different from last year's gift, but somehow similar. "I have something for you," he said, "but I need to say something first." "Jin-woo, let me finish. 1 year ago, you hired me to pretend to be your boyfriend. You were desperate and out of options. And I was a criminal looking for cover. It should have been simple. Perform a role, collect payment, disappear. But it wasn't simple." "But it wasn't simple," he agreed, "because I met you, and you were everything I'd forgotten existed. In the world, kindness and hope and genuine goodness. You saw the best in people even when you shouldn't. You believed in happy endings even though life had taught you otherwise. I also helped you destroy a crime family with PowerPoint presentations." Jin-woo laughed. "That too. The point is you changed everything. You made me want to be someone different, someone better. You made me believe I could be more than just my father's son." He opened the box, and inside was a simple gold band. "This isn't the ring I gave you last Christmas. That was a promise I couldn't keep. This is a question I'm terrified to ask, but need to anyway." Evelyn felt tears already forming. "Jin-woo." "Evelyn Brown, I am no longer a crime boss. I have a questionable past, powerful enemies, and trauma that probably requires years of therapy. I can't give you the life you deserve. I can't promise you'll always be safe. I can't even promise my family drama is completely behind us." He took her hand. "But I can promise that I will love you with everything I have, that I will choose you every single day, that I will spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of the trust you've placed in me. Will you marry me?" Evelyn was crying now, full ugly crying, but she didn't care. Yes, yes, of course, yes. Jin-woo slipped the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly. Then, he was kissing her, and she was kissing him back, and Mochi was yowling in protest because they were ignoring him. When they finally broke apart, Evelyn laughed. We're going to have the most complicated wedding story ever. We met when you hired me to pretend to be your boyfriend to impress your evil stepmother. I turned out to be a crime boss. People tried to kill us multiple times, and I destroyed my family empire for you. Yeah, I'd say that's complicated. It's also kind of romantic. You think organized crime is romantic? No, I think choosing love over power is romantic. I think walking away from everything you knew because you wanted something real is romantic. Evelyn touched his face. I think you're romantic, even though you try really hard not to be. Jin-woo caught her hand and kissed her palm. I love you, Evelyn Brown. That's my truth. I love you too, Jin-woo Park. That's mine. They spent the rest of Christmas night planning a future that seemed impossible a year ago. Jin-woo was consulting now, legitimately this time, helping companies navigate Korean business culture. Evelyn had gotten a promotion at work after her boss discovered she'd helped take down an international crime organization. Victoria had tried to reach out multiple times, but Evelyn had blocked her number. Richard called occasionally, and Evelyn answered sometimes. Their relationship was strained, but not broken. Time would tell if it could be repaired. 6 months later, Evelyn and Jin-woo got married in a small ceremony on the deck of his safe house, which they'd bought and converted into their actual home. Maya was Evelyn's maid of honor. David, fully recovered from his gunshot wound, was Jin-woo's best man. A dozen close friends attended, none of them knowing the full story, but all of them, seeing how much the couple loved each other. Richard walked Evelyn down the aisle and whispered, Your mother would have liked him. I think so too, Dad. Victoria wasn't invited. Clarissa posted about the wedding on Instagram anyway, calling it the most dramatic love story ever, and claiming she'd known all along they were perfect for each other. Evelyn decided to be amused rather than annoyed. As Evelyn and Jin-woo exchanged vows overlooking the water, both of them were very aware of the security team discreetly positioned around the property. The Choi family had been quiet, but neither of them was naive enough to think the threat was gone forever. But for today, for this moment, they chose to focus on each other, on the impossible journey that had brought them together, on the lies that had become truth, on the fake relationship that had turned into the most real thing either of them had ever experienced. I do, Evelyn said when the officiant asked if she took this man. I do, Jin-woo echoed, his voice steady and sure. And as they kissed and their friends cheered and the Seattle sun broke through the clouds, both of them knew that whatever came next, they'd face it together. The safe house wasn't so safe anymore. The crime boss wasn't a crime boss anymore. The fake boyfriend had become a real husband. Everything had changed, and somehow, impossibly, it had all worked out. Evelyn had hired a fake boyfriend to shut up her stepmother during Christmas dinner. He'd turned out to be a billionaire Korean mafia boss she'd lied about. And he'd also turned out to be the love of her life. Sometimes the best Christmas miracles were the ones you never saw coming.